Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 81, The First True Teaching of the Heavenly Demon Sect. This talent was undoubtedly a clear sign of a significant boost in luck. It allowed the possessor to appear light-footed, as if walking on clouds, with calm and unhurried demeanor, while their heart surged with unwavering confidence. No matter what dangers or difficulties they encountered, they could always turn misfortune into good fortune. In the dark, it seemed that the power of heaven and earth was at their disposal, even suppressing opponents and causing them to suffer the backlash of bad luck. Yuan carefully studied the explanation of this talent, and his heart was greatly shocked. So this is the elusive luck, and Chu Jing seems to possess this wonderful trait. After thinking for a long time, Yuan's eyes were firm, and he had made a decision. He would dispatch this clone as the manager of the Tianya Business Alliance. After all, as his important source of financial resources, the Tianya Business Alliance must have broader prospects for development. After arranging everything, he slowly closed his eyes and began to receive the latest battlefield intelligence. The news from the battlefield was like a surging undercurrent, mixed and chaotic. The most explosive news was the death of Shui Yu, the Ningji true cultivator of the Heavenly Demon Sect. Yuan's heart was shocked, and he immediately sought more details. It was said that Shui Yu had a chance to escape the dangerous situation at that time, but for some reason, he attracted the joint attack of the Supreme Elders of Yaohua Valley and Xinjiang sect. That battle can be described as earth-shattering. Both sides were top powerhouses in the mid-stage peak of Ningji. The collision of powerful forces caused the void to vibrate and the sun and moon to lose their light. The fierce fighting lasted for a long time. In the end, Shui Yu failed to resist the combined offensive of the two Supreme Elders and died with regret. With the fall of Shui Yu, the Heavenly Demon Sect no longer sent Xuanshou to participate in the battle, and this cruel war finally came to an end slowly. In this battle, both the righteous and the demonic paths suffered heavy losses, and several Ningji powerhouses died. Among them, the loss of the Shadow Death sect was particularly heavy. Two Ningji powerhouses unfortunately fell, and only the sect leader survived by chance. However, a large number of the sect's controlled areas were also lost, and its vitality was greatly damaged. The situation of the Corpse Demon sect was also not optimistic. A large number of Dao soldiers were lost, and even the peak master of Blood Demon Peak died in battle, greatly weakening the sect's strength. The Xinjiang sect and Yaohua Valley of the Righteous Path also each lost a Ningji powerhouse, which can be described as a huge loss. This war lasted for a full 6 months. Because the Heavenly Demon sect took the lead in provoking the incident, after Shui Yu died in battle, the sects and forces in Shichui quickly quelled the disputes, and the war was declared over. Yuan planned strategies and harvested nearly 35,000 fate points, but also consumed 22,000 in the process of the war. Now, after careful calculation, there are still about 13,000 fate points left. Now, all the sects have begun to recruit disciples and expand their forces. It's a pity that my central clones are still limited. Even if I successfully refine 2 more, there are only 5, and the number of clones that can be effectively controlled is only about 500. However, it's coming soon. I can clearly feel that the mind-dividing technique is about to enter the realm of proficiency. I really don't know what amazing effects it will bring at that time. A trace of anticipation flashed in Yuan's eyes, and he murmured to himself. Let's refine a large number of mortal clones first. Even if they can't step into the path of righteousness, entering the corpse refining Dao platform is also a feasible path. Consume 10,000 fate points to refine 2,000 mortal clones. Yuan already had a new plan in mind. All along, he has used the corpse refining Dao platform as the foundation. After all, there, he can easily obtain cultivation points without spending too much effort to control them. Although some clones will unfortunately die, the clones refined by the Weird Blessed Land are already much more likely to become living puppet Dao soldiers than ordinary people. After checking all the information about the end of the battlefield, Yuan closed his eyes slightly, and his consciousness slowly descended on several important clones like wisps of blue smoke. There was the Medical One clone adventuring with Chu Jing, and the Luck clone of the Tianya Business Alliance that controlled the overall situation. As for the previous Yi, after possessing a divided soul, he no longer needed Yuan to personally manage him. The ruins of the demon-subduing profound sect, with broken walls and ruins, were full of devastation. Wild grass grew luxuriantly, covering the former glory and today's desolation. The wind rolled up dust and sand, as if whispering about the sect's former glory and present insignificance. Lu Yuan's clone had set foot here countless times and knew this place like the back of his hand. However, this time, it was Chu Jing and the medical one clone traveling together. This place is very good, see Lu, do you know? I always have a familiar feeling about this place. Chu Jing stroked a wildflower lightly, with a hint of nostalgia in her tone. The medical one clone smiled slightly and joked, Miss Jing, could it be that your previous life was a disciple here? Hee, a disciple is too cheap. If I really had a previous life, I would at least be a supreme elder. Chu Jing smiled faintly, a hint of pride flashing in her eyes. Hearing this, medical one couldn't help but exclaim, that's really amazing. Chu Jing suddenly pointed to a place, come over here, there seems to be a formation here. As soon as these words came out, Lu Yuan, whose consciousness had descended on the medical one clone, was shocked. Because the direction Chu Jing was pointing to was the entrance to the Qi-inspiring essence-nurturing formation. Could it be that this Chu Jing is really related to the demon-subduing profound sect? Lu Yuan muttered to himself. The two followed the entrance and entered the Qi-inspiring essence-nurturing formation. Chu Jing looked around and said in a calm tone, see Lu, you are already in the mid-stage of Jushuan, and you will be able to step into the Bugong stage in a few years. You can use this formation then. Hearing this, the medical one clone was shocked. Miss Jing, do you know how to use this formation? Chu Jing nodded and said in a calm tone, I know. How did you get the method to use this formation? The medical one clone asked. Chu Jing smiled slightly, a hint of mystery flashing in her eyes, in a dream. After I stepped into the Bugong stage, I often dreamed, and I would often gain some inheritances. The medical one clone was speechless for a moment, but a huge wave was surging in his heart. Lu Yuan didn't ask any more questions. He already understood that Chu Jing's identity was definitely not simple. Either she had a master pointing her behind the scenes, or she was the reincarnation of a strong person. In the world of Xuanshou, the legend of the reincarnation of strong people is not uncommon, and Chu Jing's performance undoubtedly fits this legend. Just as the two were talking, the weird blessed land received news about the corpse demon sect. Dot 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 dot. Dot 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 dot. Dot 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 dot. In the corpse demon sect, in the corpse lord hall, an eerie and strange atmosphere permeated the air. The surrounding environment was so oppressive that it was difficult to breathe. Faintly, it seemed that the whispers of countless wronged souls echoed in the air. At this moment, a flying boat with an exaggerated shape and extremely gorgeous, cut through the void and sped over. On the flying boat, several figures loomed, surrounding a handsome man who slowly appeared. But seeing that the man exuded an innate noble temperament, and was surrounded by dozens of beautiful women, yin yin yan yan, which was very eye-catching. Chu Hen, the first true disciple of the heavenly demon sect, is here to pay a special visit today. Chapter 82, Distraction Technique Advancement. The man spoke loudly, his voice clear and resonant, echoing like a great bell throughout every corner of the corpse lord hall. As soon as his words fell, the corpse demon sect leader hurriedly appeared, a slightly stiff smile plastered on his face, saying, I didn't expect that nephew Chu would come from so far away, our corpse demon sect has truly failed to welcome you properly. Chu Hen took steady steps, slowly walking in front of the corpse demon sect leader, cupping his fist slightly, a faint smile on his face, and said, Chu has come here for two reasons. First, it is for the unfortunate death of Uncle Master Blood Moon. Secondly, I want to discuss the relationship between our two sects with the sect leader. Hearing this, the corpse demon sect leader's expression changed slightly, a trace of imperceptible panic flashing in his eyes, but he quickly forced himself to remain calm, chuckled dryly twice, and said, Nephew Chu is joking. Our two sects have always been on good terms, our relationship is very harmonious. As for the death of fellow Taoist Blood Moon, it was truly sudden, and we were also powerless to help. Chu Hen gently shook his head, a cold glint flashing in his eyes, his tone suddenly turning icy, and said, Sect leader's words are not right. The corpse demon sect cannot escape blame for the death of Uncle Master Blood Moon this time. This full responsibility, I'm afraid, cannot be shirked off. As soon as these words came out, everyone present felt a tremor in their hearts. Everyone could hear that this Chu Hen was clearly using this opportunity to extort them, wanting to gain benefits from the corpse demon sect. Nephew, these words are a bit too much. Crimson Corpse's face was gloomy, his sleeves moved without wind, and a huge corpse puppet phantom faintly appeared behind him, exuding a palpitating pressure. Our sect has always acted according to fellow Taoist Blood Moon's requests, and even Peak Lord Mo Ming died because of this, his soul scattered. Has my corpse demon sect ever complained to the heavenly demon sect? Hearing this, Chu Hen's lips curled into a cold smile, his gaze swept over Crimson Corpse like a knife, and he said lightly. Haha, why should sect leader Crimson Corpse be angry? Our two sects are originally from the Xuanming Holy Land lineage and should support each other. I have come today not to interrogate you, but just to make a small request. When the Holy Land elders come to select disciples, your corpse demon sect will give up a spot to my heavenly demon sect, and this matter will be over. How about it? Hearing this, Crimson Corpse's face changed drastically, a flash of anger in his eyes, and his voice suddenly rose. Impossible. The Holy Land quota is related to the survival of the sect, how can it be easily given up? Nephew Chu, don't mention this matter again. The smile on Chu Hen's face gradually faded, a cold light burst out in his eyes, and his aura suddenly erupted, a powerful pressure swept out, actually reaching the peak of the Ningji realm. He stared at Crimson Corpse coldly, his tone filled with undisguised threat. Crimson Corpse, I'm giving you face by calling you sect leader. If I don't give you face, you're just an old geezer. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Seeing this, a trace of shock flashed in Crimson Corpse's eyes, but he quickly regained his composure. He snorted coldly, his aura also erupted, stronger than Chu Hen by more than a little bit. It was actually the peak of the Ningji middle stage. He sneered. Nephew Chu, you have entered the Ningji realm at a young age, truly a genius. However, with this little strength, you dare to be presumptuous in my corpse demon sect. You are overestimating yourself. Hearing this, a cold light flashed in Chu Hen's eyes, but he did not attack again, coldly glanced at Crimson Corpse, turned around and stepped onto the flying boat, his voice like ice. Good, Crimson Corpse, I've remembered what happened today. We'll see. The flying boat slowly rose into the air. Chu Hen stood at the bow of the boat, his robes fluttering, gradually disappearing into the sky. Crimson Corpse watched the departing flying boat, his face as gloomy as water, the fist in his sleeve clenched tightly, his nails deeply embedded in his palm. Chu Hen, heavenly demon sect, he murmured in a low voice, a trace of ruthlessness flashing in his eyes, this debt will be settled sooner or later. ... Weird blessed land. Lu Yuan slowly withdrew his consciousness, and everything that the living puppet avatar in the Corpse Lord Hall experienced was reflected in his mind. Chu Hen's conversation with Crimson Corpse, especially the aura on Chu Hen's body that was comparable to the Blood Demon Peak Lord, made his heart tremble slightly. This Chu Hen is not simple. Lu Yuan muttered to himself, then took out a jade slip and recorded everything he saw and heard today in detail. This was a habit he had cultivated over the years, any information could become the key to future plans. Just as he finished recording, a central avatar suddenly moved abnormally, and actually began to go mad, black mist surrounding it, as if countless resentful souls were roaring within it. Here it comes again. Lu Yuan frowned slightly, already accustomed to this situation. He quickly manipulated the backup avatar to come, skillfully extracted the diverging soul of the mad avatar, reset it to 0, and then injected it into the backup avatar. However, this time the situation was a little different. The mad central avatar was still filled with black mist, and the operation of the divergence technique had not stopped. Something's not right. Lu Yuan's heart sank, and his consciousness immediately descended onto the avatar. As soon as he entered, he felt a sharp pain that tore his soul, as if countless sharp blades were cutting his consciousness. He endured the pain and quickly investigated, and found that this avatar was actually the first one to cultivate the divergence technique. The proficiency in the divergence technique far exceeded other avatars, so that even after the diverging soul was extracted, the technique still operated on its own. The divergence technique has actually entered the realm of proficiency. Lu Yuan's heart trembled, and he immediately took the initiative to manipulate the avatar to stop the operation of the technique. A moment later, the black mist gradually dissipated, and the avatar's anomaly also subsided. The pain of soul division is indeed extraordinary. Lu Yuan withdrew his consciousness, his face slightly pale. He knew that although the divergence technique could greatly improve the divergent soul's spiritual sense, the price was to endure the pain of soul tearing. It can be seen how much pain the divergent soul faces every day when it operates, but this is indeed a profound technique that can improve the divergent soul's spiritual sense. The divergent souls of several central avatars are extremely powerful. Although resetting will reduce some spiritual sense, it will also leave most of it behind, so these divergent souls are stronger than Lu Yuan's main soul, and their realms are also in the late stage of replenishing the palace. It's just that Lu Yuan doesn't want to suffer, otherwise this would be a very good way to exercise the soul. Now that the divergence technique has entered the realm of proficiency, it's time to test the effect. A gleam flashed in Lu Yuan's eyes, and with a thought, he began to copy the proficient divergence technique. Open black lens bracket. Copying the proficient divergence technique requires consuming 200 points of fate. Close black lens bracket. Copy. Lu Yuan did not hesitate. A few days later, Lu Yuan thoroughly mastered the effects of the proficient divergence technique. Although the possibility of the diverging soul becoming demonic has increased somewhat, the personality after the diverging soul splits can be accurately invested in the avatar, increasing the number of controlled avatars. Now a central avatar can control 200 avatars. For this reason, Lu Yuan also prepared several central avatars in the replenishing palace realm, in case the central avatar goes mad. The number of avatars has increased to 1,000, which is an unexpected surprise. The corners of Lu Yuan's mouth raised slightly, and he pondered how to use these avatars to further his plans. He quickly arranged for 500 mortal avatars to sneak into waiting profound city, and sent 1,000 mortal avatars to mix into the corpse demon sect, secretly earning cultivation points to provide resources for the gathering profound avatars. As long as these avatars steadily improve, the replenishing palace realm's corpse refining Dao platform will also be used by me. A hint of a smile flashed in Lu Yuan's eyes. At this moment, the aura of Chen Yang's avatar, who was cultivating nearby, suddenly changed, and he actually broke through to the 7th replenishment of the replenishing palace, officially entering the late-stage realm. Chen Yang has broken through. Lu Yuan nodded slightly, but then frowned again. It's a pity that the corpse demon sect has already issued a wanted order for him, otherwise, I could use the Yao Nu demoness of Smiling Spring Hall to consolidate his cultivation. While he was thinking, the central avatar suddenly sent a message that the corpse demon sect had discovered Qian Cha's whereabouts and had sent people to hunt him down. Qian Cha. A cold light flashed in Lu Yuan's eyes, and the corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. It seems that another good show is about to begin. Chapter 83, 100,000 Mysterious Crystals. As night fell, the starlight dimmed, and the sky was as dark as ink. A figure flew rapidly through the air, robes fluttering, with several figures in close pursuit, their killing intent palpable. Qi-er, go. Someone in the pursuing group ordered in a cold voice. A purple-skinned Zon cultivator responded and moved like lightning, instantly closing in on the fleeing figure ahead. With a flick of the long spear in his hand, a cold glint appeared at the tip, stabbing directly at the back of the fleeing figure. The Zon cultivator fleeing ahead was no pushover either, suddenly turning around and sweeping out the 9-ring broadsword in his hand, the blade light like a bolt of white silk, forcibly splitting open the incoming spear. However, this delay caused his figure to falter, and several pursuing figures had already surrounded him. Qian Cha, as a true disciple of the corpse demon sect, I don't understand why you would betray us. Could it be that the hidden dangers of your cultivation technique have already been resolved? The leading Zon cultivator asked in a cold voice, a hint of investigation flashing in his eyes. Qian Cha panted heavily, but a cunning smile appeared on his face. Junior brothers, you are all true disciples, palace supplement cultivators who are supposed to live for 200 years. Are you willing to be controlled by the corpse demon sect and suffer the torment of the cultivation technique every day? As soon as these words came out, the expressions of the several true disciples surrounding him changed slightly, obviously touched by his words. Oh, what solution do you have? The leading Zon cultivator narrowed his eyes, his tone carrying a hint of probing. Senior brother, don't listen to this man's nonsense, just kill him. Another disciple shouted sharply, the Zon treasure in his hand already poised to strike. The leading Zon cultivator waved his hand, his gaze still fixed on Qian Cha. Tell me. Qian Cha smiled mysteriously and slowly said, the Star Sword sect has a special elixir that can completely remove the demonic nature from the cultivation technique and even enhance cultivation. This is much better than suffering the torment of the cultivation technique every day in the corpse demon sect. Upon hearing this, the disciples all felt a surge in their hearts, a hint of desire flashing in their eyes. However, the leading Zon cultivator suddenly attacked, a sword piercing Qian Cha's abdomen. PFF'd. Qian Cha spat out a mouthful of blood, his eyes wide, looking at the leading Zon cultivator in disbelief. You. HMPH, how easy do you think it is to obtain the Star Sword sect's elixir? The leading Zon cultivator said coldly, twisting the long sword in his hand. Qian Cha's wound immediately gushing with blood. However, at this moment, a young man slowly walked out of the darkness. His face was stern, and his eyes were like knives. Chen Yang. Someone among the true disciples recognized him and exclaimed in surprise. Haha, this is interesting, the sect trader is here too. This is a great achievement. The leading Zan cultivator laughed loudly, forming hand seals, and beams of fierce light shot towards Chen Yang. Chen Yang only shook his head and walked straight towards Qian Cha. His pace seemed slow, but it was strangely swift, and the incoming light beams dissipated into nothingness before they could even get close to him. The true disciples surrounding Qian Cha turned into pieces of flesh and fell to the ground silently. Qian Cha looked at the scene before him, his fat body began to tremble, his voice filled with fear. True cultivator, spare me. Chen Yang walked up to him and said coldly, I ask, you answer. Where is the Ningji true profound inheritance site? Ah, what inheritance site? Qian Cha pretended to be stupid. Pretending to be stupid. Chen Yang's eyes turned cold, and his killing intent surged. It's in the depths of the North Forest Mountains, under a birch spirit tree northeast of Hanging Demon Cliff. Qian Cha said quickly, not daring to hide anything. Not bad. This is the reward for saving your life. Thank you for saving my life, Qian Cha said hurriedly. Wait, don't thank me too early, what's the reward for me not killing you? Chen Yang asked with a smile that was not a smile. Chen Yang, you spared me, we've met before, Qian Cha immediately said in a panic. Chen Yang shook his head. I have another piece of information. Speak. The reason why the Heavenly Demon Sect launched a border war against the Shadow Death Sect is because Medicine Flower Valley has second-order and even third-order anomalous Dao fruits, and there may be further plots behind it. Can this information buy your life? Chen Yang, Ningji, leave me behind, I can risk my life to gather information for you. Chen Yang was silent for a moment, then said faintly, you'd better remember what you said. With that, his figure flashed and disappeared into the night. Seeing Chen Yang leave, Qian Cha breathed a sigh of relief, then a trace of greed flashed in his eyes. He immediately searched the bodies of the dead true disciples, putting the palace supplement living puppet Dao soldiers that had not been destroyed by Chen Yang into his corpse bag. Although he had resolved the hidden dangers of the cultivation technique, he was still a demonic cultivator, and greed and cunning were already ingrained in his bones. These are all good things, Qian Cha muttered to himself, a sinister smile on his face. The night was deep, the starlight dim, and only the faint smell of blood mixed in the wind indicated that this storm was far from over. Anomalous blessed land. So, the Heavenly Demon Sect is after the anomalous Dao fruit of Medicine Flower Valley. This should be the earliest Dao fruit born in the relic of the demon-subduing profound sect. Lu Yuan muttered to himself, a glint of Jing Meng in his eyes. I can let Yi go to gather information, but he is only an inner disciple now, with limited authority. The righteous path is not like the demonic path, the path to promotion is subject to many restrictions, especially the issue of aptitude. Even with the assistance of cultivation points, he is only at the level of an ordinary genius. Fortunately, Yi's alchemy has already attracted the attention of the Valley Master, which is a breakthrough. In addition, the development of the Endless Horizon Commerce Alliance must also be accelerated. Lu Yuan thought to himself, a hint of coldness flashing in his eyes. The Endless Horizon Commerce Alliance is now in full swing, and the Fortune Incarnation Lu Yun, as the leader of the alliance, has already pushed the alliance's daily income to 10,000 profound crystals. Especially against the backdrop of the war between the Star Sword Sect and Medicine Flower Valley, the alliance's growth rate is even more astonishing. However, Lu Yuan's face gradually turned ugly. It turned out that a wisp of his consciousness was constantly descending on the Fortune Incarnation Lu Yun, closely monitoring every move in South Forest Market. At this time, outside several storefronts of the Endless Horizon Commerce Alliance in South Forest Market, Zan cultivators wearing sword robes were on guard, and the atmosphere seemed particularly tense. Suddenly, a beautiful female cultivator with a somewhat eccentric air strode into the main store of the Endless Horizon Commerce Alliance. Her eyes were cold, and after scanning the room, she said coldly, "Who is the manager here?" Lu Yun strode out, with a smile on his face, cupping his hands and saying, "May I ask who you are?" "I am Jin Luxin, a true disciple of the Star Sword Sect," the female cultivator said indifferently, her tone carrying a hint of arrogance. "So it is the arrival of true disciple Jin, may I ask what brings you here?" Lu Yun still maintained a respectful attitude. Jin Luxin smiled coldly, her gaze sweeping over Lu Yun like a knife. "Your Commerce Alliance is doing a bit too much business." Lu Yun's expression remained unchanged, and he said calmly, "I have only been in South Forest Market for a short time, and the business has been developing step by step, it can't be said to be big. Don't try to hide it from me. Jin Luxin sneered, her tone carrying a hint of sarcasm. In the past few days, your commerce alliance has expanded so quickly, there must be some ulterior motives. Maybe you are the pawns of the demonic forces. Lu Yun's heart tightened, but his face remained calm and composed. You are mistaken, my commerce alliance is just seizing opportunities and acting in accordance with the situation. There is absolutely no disloyal intention. Jin Luxin's eyes were full of suspicion, obviously not believing Lu Yun's words. She said coldly, I don't care what secrets you have behind you, but your commerce alliance has seized too many benefits and must pay additional management fees. Lu Yun frowned slightly, his tone still calm. My Endless Horizon Commerce Alliance comes from the Eastern lands, and we are not people who can be bullied. Upon hearing this, Jin Luxin's eyebrows shot up, her tone suddenly becoming fierce. Eastern lands. I don't care where you come from, if you want to continue doing business, you have to pay. Lu Yun sneered in his heart, but his face remained respectful. If that's the case, I wonder how much management fee needs to be paid. Jin Luxin snorted coldly and said indifferently, based on your commerce alliance's current situation, you naturally need to pay 100,000 profound crystals. 100,000 profound crystals. Lu Yun feigned surprise, you might as well just rob us. Enough nonsense, will you pay or not? Jin Luxin's tone was icy cold, and sword energy faintly flowed around her body, obviously already truly angered. Pay. Lu Yun was silent for a moment, finally saying helplessly. Soon, Lu Yun raised 100,000 profound crystals and handed them to Jin Luxin. Jin Luxin took the profound crystals, snorted coldly, and turned to leave. After Jin Luxin had walked far away, Lu Yun's face gradually turned cold. At the same time, Lu Yuan's main body in the anomalous Blessed Land also opened his eyes, a cold smile appearing on the corner of his mouth. It seems that there is one more humanoid profound crystal. Chapter 84, Gradually Gaining Power. The streets of Waiting Mysterious City were bustling with noise and activity, a cacophony of voices rising from the marketplace. Street vendors hawked their wares, and pedestrians bustled to and fro, creating a lively scene. However, within a quaint apothecary tucked away on a street corner, the atmosphere was subtly different. Lu Yuan, thank you for taking care of us all this time. Xu Qing lowered her head slightly, a blush rising on her cheeks, her voice soft as water, her eyes filled with gratitude. Lu Yuan leaned lazily against the medicine cabinet, twirling a feather fan in his hand, and upon hearing this, he simply smiled faintly, you're too kind. It's a doctor's duty. Standing beside Xu Qing, Xu Shi wore a stern expression, a sharp aura emanating from between her brows. Her figure was upright, like an unsheathed sword, forming a stark contrast to Xu Qing's gentleness. The ambush a month prior had resulted in heavy losses for the righteous path. Although the battle had come to an end, the Xu sisters had nearly lost their lives due to severe injuries. Especially Xu Shi, who had been unconscious for several days before awakening, and had only barely recovered after nearly a month of recuperation. We should go. Xu Zai's tone was icy, her gaze like a blade, sweeping across Lu Yuan's face, seemingly quite dissatisfied with his nonchalant attitude. Lu Yuan shrugged, still appearing lazy, I can't stop you from leaving if you want to. However, it's still hundreds of miles from here to Medicine Flower Valley, and demonic remnants run rampant along the way. You must be careful. If you encounter them, I'm afraid your chances will be grim. Lu Yuan. Xu Qing hurriedly interrupted him, stealing a glance at Xu Shi, and seeing her face grow even gloomier, she quickly smoothed things over. My sister is just anxious about the war between the righteous and demonic paths, don't take it to heart. HMPH. Xu Zai's face was cold as she turned to leave, her footsteps swift, and in a flurry of sleeves, she pushed open the door and went out. Sister. Xu Qing hurriedly got up, hastily taking a few steps to follow, then looked back at Lu Yuan, a hint of reluctance in her eyes. Lu Yuan, how about, you come back to Medicine Flower Valley with us? With my sister and me, you'll definitely be able to become an outer disciple, and even an inner disciple might be possible. Lu Yuan remained seated on the prayer mat, the feather fan in his hand gently waving, his expression calm. No need, I'm used to staying here, too lazy to bother. Xu Qing bit her lip, a trace of disappointment flashing in her eyes, but she quickly smiled again. All right then, I'll come see you again when I have time. After speaking, she turned and chased after Xu Shi, her figure quickly disappearing into the bustling street. Inside the apothecary, Lu Yuan still sat in the same spot, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, revealing a meaningful smile. This concealing realm technique, the effect is not bad. He muttered to himself. It turned out that this body was not an avatar, but Lu Yuan's true self. Previously, when adventuring with Chu Jing, he had obtained a secret technique called Concealing Realm Technique, and having recently mastered it, he wanted to take this opportunity to test its effects. So, he took care of and treated the Shu sisters in the guise of a mortal, secretly observing their reactions. I didn't expect that even the true inheritor disciples of Medicine Flower Valley failed to see through my disguise. Lu Yuan chuckled softly, his eyes filled with smugness. Just then, Yi walked in carrying a basket of herbs, looked around, but did not see Lu Yuan's figure. ... Weird blessed land. In the future, I can pretend to be immortal to get some fresh air. Lu Yuan returned, a faint smile on his lips. Although he could descend his consciousness into his avatars, as if he were there in person, this true body had been dormant in the weird blessed land for too long, almost growing moldy. Now that he had cultivated the concealing realm technique, the possibility of him being discovered in the territory ruled by the righteous path had greatly decreased. After all, as a mysterious cultivator who had cultivated the demonic path technique, body forging art, he was destined to be unable to integrate into the righteous path. The body forging art had already penetrated deep into Lu Yuan's heart, and abandoning the technique was tantamount to suicide. Lu Yuan knew this very well. Currently, the technique had not caused him any obvious effects, but he was still controlled by the corpse demon sect, unable to truly break free from the shackles. I must find a complete solution. Where exactly is the mysterious nether sacred ground? How can I reach it? This question had been lingering in Lu Yuan's mind, unable to be dispelled. Although the spies he had planted in the various sects numbered 800, the specific information about the mysterious nether sacred ground was still like looking at flowers in the fog, difficult to grasp. The only clue pieced together was, the mysterious nether sacred ground would send elders to select disciples in 1 year. Lu Yuan shook his head, temporarily suppressing these thoughts, and began to sort out the intelligence reported by the central avatar. The 3 peaks and 9 halls of the corpse demon sect have all been infiltrated by spies. Yesterday, Yi's avatar received a mission from a true inheritor disciple of Medicine Flower Valley, requiring him to kill a demonic path true inheritor disciple within half a year. Zhan San investigated Jin Luxian and discovered that she did not hand over the full 100,000 profound crystals, only submitting 60,000. Mo Bai's avatar from the Dead Shadow sect has been promoted to an inner disciple. A large amount of information flooded into Lu Yuan's mind like a tide, and the central avatar quickly recorded this information in a jade slip. Lu Yuan listened while calculating in his mind. The cessation of the war on the border of the Dead Shadow sect caused the life number he gained daily to plummet from 1,000 to 200. However, Lu Yuan did not care about this. He had long had the idea of provoking war, but had not yet put it into practice. Now, how many palace supplementing realm cultivation points can I get every day? The number of living puppet avatars that have entered the palace supplementing realm DAO platform has reached 22, providing 220 palace supplementing realm cultivation points per day. Distribute the cultivation points to me, Chen Yang, Blood 1, Blood 2, Blood 3, and divide the remainder equally among the central avatars. Lu Yuan quickly issued the order. His divine soul was now able to perfectly control 4 avatars, gaining 40 palace supplementing realm cultivation points every day. As soon as the order was issued, the information on the iris was instantly updated. Weird Blessed Land Master, Lu Yuan. Lifespan, 17,276. Talent, none. Life number can be shared with avatars. Realm, Palace supplementing second supplement 162 200ths can absorb avatar cultivation to improve. Root bone, inferior grade. Life number can be obtained from avatars. Technique, proficient body forging art, proficient blood demon profound art. Life number can be obtained from avatars. Spell, proficient star severing sword, beginner soul shaping chapter, beginner concealing realm technique. Life number can be shared with avatars. Profound gathering realm avatars, 1687. Palace supplementing initial stage avatars, 52. Palace supplementing middle stage avatars. Seer Lu, 6th supplement 2 3200ths, Lu Yi, 4th supplement 2 4800ths, Luer, 4th supplement 2 4800ths. Palace supplementing late stage avatars. Chenyang, 7th supplement 3422 6400ths. Life number, 1736 points. Now, a large number of avatars have entered the corpse refining Tao platform of the Profound Gathering Realm, and the cultivation points of the Profound Gathering Realm are too many to absorb. However, this has instead increased the probability of avatars becoming Tao soldiers. Although there are 52 palace supplementing initial stage avatars, most of them are living puppets who have left the corpse refining Tao platform. I deliberately slowed down the breakthrough speed in order to see what hidden dangers Chen Yang's cultivation of the blood demon art had, but now that Chen Yang has no problem breaking through to the palace supplementing 7th supplement, then I will no longer limit it, so tomorrow I am afraid I will be able to break through to the palace supplementing 3rd supplement. However, the further the cultivation goes, the greater the difficulty of breaking through, so there is no need to worry about the cultivation improving too quickly. Moreover, Chen Yang, as the number 1 combat power, will basically be able to break through to the palace supplementing 8th supplement in another 70 days. Coupled with 52 palace supplementing avatars, I already have a considerable force. First spread some rumors about Jin Lu Xin, and then let Chen Yang clean her up. A trace of coldness flashed in Lu Yuan's eyes. He had long been dissatisfied with Jin Lu Xin, who had withheld 100,000 profound crystals from him. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 85 Secretly Establishing the Sword-Destroying Sect. The night was as dark as ink, with gusts of cold wind. The servant quarters of the North Refining Hall were shrouded in a depressing atmosphere, the air thick with the stench of decay and death. Recently, a rumor had quietly spread about the corpse demon sect controlling its disciples with forbidden techniques, making everyone feel insecure, as if an invisible sword hung over their heads, ready to fall at any moment. Inside a simple stone hut, a faint tremor suddenly ran through the ground. Immediately afterward, a withered, skeletal hand slowly emerged from the soil, its 5 fingers contorted and its nails as black as ink. Accompanied by a low, hoarse roar, a corpse buried for a long time crawled out from the earth. Its skin was shriveled and black, its eye sockets were sunken, and black corpse gas constantly leaked from its mouth, making it appear eerie and terrifying. This corpse fiend moved sluggishly, yet with a chilling persistence. It slowly crawled towards the bedside, its target being the servant disciple who was fast asleep. The corpse fiend opened its rotten mouth, revealing rows of white teeth, and bit towards the disciple's neck. Ah! The disciple suddenly woke up, feeling the icy breath on his neck, and was instantly scared out of his wits. He pushed the corpse fiend away and scrambled towards the door, shouting, "Help! There's a corpse fiend!" However, before his cry could fade, the corpse fiend had already pounced on him, its withered hand piercing directly through his chest. Fresh blood spurted out, staining the ground red. The disciple's body fell limply, his eyes filled with despair. The commotion outside attracted the attention of other servant disciples. The crowd, holding torches, surrounded the corpse fiend. Some picked up stones and hurled them at the corpse fiend, while others wielded wooden sticks, striking it fiercely. Although these were mere servants, they were also Zon cultivators, and their attacks were amplified by Zon power. The corpse fiend eventually turned into a pile of rotten flesh, emitting a nauseating stench. The crowd looked at the dead servant disciple on the ground, their faces filled with a sense of shared sorrow. A young disciple murmured, "Indeed, the corpse demon sect doesn't treat us like human beings at all. Senior brother, be careful what you say." A seemingly dull and wooden servant disciple quickly warned from the side, his tone laced with nervousness. "Alas, my life is over." The young disciple shook his head, said no more, and turned to return to his stone hut. However, just as he stepped into the stone hut, the dull and wooden disciple suddenly appeared, using his hand to prop open the door that was about to close. "What do you want?" The young disciple became alarmed, his eyes full of vigilance. In the corpse demon sect, such behavior often implied malicious intent. "Junior brother, I want to talk to you," the dull and wooden disciple said, a glint flashing in his eyes, his tone low and mysterious. "We have nothing to talk about," the young disciple replied coldly, trying to close the door. "Do you want to live?" the other suddenly asked. The young disciple was taken aback, staring at him warily. "What do you mean by that?" The dull and wooden disciple slowly said, "The corpse demon sect is no place to stay for long. Here, we could lose our lives at any time. But I know a good place to go. As long as you join there, you can not only save your life but also learn powerful Zon techniques and skills." "Where?" "The Sword Extinction Sect." "The Sword Extinction Sect? I've never heard of it. To be honest, I was originally a mole planted by the Sword Extinction Sect, my purpose being to help the servant disciples of the corpse demon sect survive." The young disciple hesitated. On one side was the perilous corpse demon sect, and on the other was the unknown Sword Extinction Sect. He didn't know which to choose. Just then, a burst of hurried footsteps came from outside, as if a managing disciple was heading this way. The dull and wooden disciple glanced nervously at the door and urged in a low voice, "Remember, only the sword extinction sect can let us live." After saying that, he quickly turned and disappeared into the darkness. The young disciple stood there, complex emotions churning in his heart. The footsteps outside grew closer and closer. He took a deep breath, closed the door, and silently memorized that name, the sword extinction sect. The anomalous blessed land. Lu Yuan sat cross-legged, surrounded by 9 dazzling halos, like 9 small lamps floating in the void, emitting a fiery and pure aura. Each halo slowly revolved, as if resonating with the heavens and earth. This, 9 wheels yang refinement technique, was a righteous dual cultivation technique. Although not as overbearing and fierce as demonic techniques, its strength lay in its moderation and harmony, which could temper the physical body and stabilize the divine soul. It's never a loss to learn another Zon technique. Moreover, this yang refinement technique can strengthen the body, so it can be considered a body refinement technique, which suits me well. Lu Yuan thought to himself. As the technique circulated, Lu Yuan's body was gradually enveloped in a faint golden light, the muscle lines became more distinct, and the blood in his body surged like a river, emitting a low rumble. The 9 halos slowly contracted, eventually merging into his body, turning into a warm current, nourishing every inch of his meridians. After a moment, Lu Yuan slowly finished his practice, opened his eyes, and a flash of light disappeared in his eyes. He breathed a long sigh of relief, feeling the surging power in his body, and the corners of his mouth turned up slightly. This yang refinement technique is indeed extraordinary, and it doesn't conflict with demonic techniques. After finishing his practice, Lu Yuan began to check on the situation of his clone. In the past month, Chen Yang's clone, having been wanted by the corpse demon sect, simply let go and released the anomalous blessed land, hunting down the Yao Nu's of the corpse demon sect everywhere, forcibly engaging in dual cultivation to improve his cultivation. In just 1 month, Chen Yang's cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds, directly entering the 8th level of the palace completion stage. Not bad, Chen Yang's cultivation is progressing rapidly by practicing dual cultivation with the demonic Yao Nu's. Lu Yuan then continued to check. The embryonic form of the sword extinction sect was also quietly being established within the corpse demon sect. Through the cooperation of many clones and the broken sword, Lu Yuan successfully absorbed a large number of servant disciples to join the sword extinction sect. He vaguely felt that the old man who was always lost in thought was extremely extraordinary and that he was the one who strategized for Chen Yang and Broken Sword, proposing the strategy of starting with the servant disciples. Now Chen Yang is basically useless in the corpse demon sect, but fortunately, several other clones have successfully become inner disciples. Lu Yuan thought to himself, however, it won't be so easy to become a true disciple. Then he descended his consciousness onto the Medical One clone. In the past month, the Medical One clone had been adventuring with Chu Jing and unexpectedly entered the late stage of the Profound Gathering realm. This made Lu Yuan greatly change his view of Chu Jing. This Chu Jing is indeed unusual, Lu Yuan muttered to himself. Why does she know so many hidden secret rooms of the demon-subduing Zon sect? Every exploration can yield amazing benefits. The experience of the Medical One clone made Lu Yuan realize that Chu Jing was by no means as simple as she appeared. Her knowledge and methods far surpassed those of ordinary people. And Lu Yuan, through the descent of consciousness to control the Medical One clone, personally experienced these adventures and had indescribable feelings for Chu Jing. After all, it's hard to hate someone who is always good to you, no matter how bad they are. Chapter 86, The Demon Fairy. The sky was turning white at the horizon, and the morning light scattered, dispelling the darkness of the night. A thin mist swirled through the mountains and forests, and dewdrops adorned the grass blades, shimmering like crystals. Lu Yuan's consciousness descended upon the Medical One clone, who gently placed some wild fruits beside Chu Jing. Chu Jing sat cross-legged, her eyes slightly closed, a faint spiritual light enveloping her. Her long hair cascaded down like a waterfall, swaying gently in the wind. Her skin is smooth as jade, appearing even more exquisite in the morning light. Her breathing was long and even, as if she had merged with heaven and earth, like a painting, making one afraid to profane her. Miss Jing, have something to eat, Medical One said softly, his tone concerned. Chu Jing opened her eyes, in which stars seemed to twinkle, glanced at the wild fruits, and smiled slightly. 426, I am already at the meridian supplementing stage, and rarely feel hunger. You eat them. The Medical One clone shook his head and said, although the meridian supplementing stage is extraordinary, you are still ultimately a mortal body and need to replenish your strength. Chu Jing no longer declined, picked up a wild fruit, and took a light bite. The juice trickled down the corner of her lips, like dewdrops on a morning flower petal, adding to her allure. Do you know? Chu Jing looked into the distance, her tone filled with emotion. Every time I go on an adventure with you, it's like opening the door to a new world. Those secret chambers, relics, and hidden mechanisms, they excite me, and I always gain something different. Medical One smiled and said, Miss Jing is joking. I don't do anything at all, I only manage to gain something by relying on you. No, Chu Jing shook her head, her eyes sincere, you have luck on your side, and you are also meticulous and courageous. Thank you for your praise, Miss Jing. 426, would you be willing to become my Tao companion? Lu Yuan was shocked by the sudden words and immediately explained, this. Miss Jing, I'm really not 426. Whether you are or not is not important, it's just a shell. Chu Jing looked at Medical One with a sacred gaze, revealing an indescribable aura. A shell. Has this Chu Jing discovered something? Lu Yuan was greatly alarmed. What, are you unwilling? Willing. Medical One was extremely sincere, but in reality, Lu Yuan, whose consciousness had descended, was just being perfunctory. He just assumed that this Chu Jing had gone mad again and was out of her mind. Suddenly, the surrounding air turned cold, and an eerie howl came from the distant forest, as if an unknown existence was approaching. Chu Jing frowned, and a long sword was unsheathed, its blade gleaming with a cold light. She stood up, brushed off the dust, and her expression turned solemn. Peaceful days are always fleeting. Medical One gripped his short blade and also spoke some platitudes. No matter what it is, we will face it together. Good, we will face it together. Chu Jing nodded. Before her voice faded, a huge dark shadow darted out from the depths of the forest. It was a mystical beast resembling a giant wolf, its eyes glowing green, its fangs like knives, drool dripping down, a stench assailing the nostrils. Its body was 3 jong tall, and with each step it took, the ground trembled. Roar! The giant wolf mystical beast roared, a gale swept through, and the surrounding trees swayed and toppled. Chu Jing's gaze sharpened, and her long sword drew a brilliant sword light. The giant wolf mystical beast, despite being at the meridian supplementing stage, was split in half from the middle of its forehead. Lu Yuan was shocked to see this. This was sword intent, different from the extinction sword intent. This sword intent contained endless demon-slaying aura. How could such sword intent appear on the body of a demon cultivator? Chu Jing stood with her sword, her expression indifferent, as if that earth-shattering sword strike just now was a casual act. The doubt in Lu Yuan's heart deepened. He was about to ask when the giant wolf mystical beast slowly dissipated, turning into a cloud of white mist. From within the mist, a low laugh echoed. Thousands of years. Demon-quelling immortal, you have finally returned. The white mist gradually transformed into a white-robed figure. Chu Jing's expression was indifferent. Demon-quelling immortal is dead. I am Chu Jing. The white-robed person laughed. No matter who you are, now that your true spirit has awakened, accept your mission. Chu Jing crossed her arms and said disdainfully, the mission ended long ago. I no longer belong to the demon-quelling mysterious sect. The white-robed man sneered, that's not up to you. As long as your true spirit remains, you must fulfill your mission. Chu Jing said, do you think it's still thousands of years ago? My destiny is now in my own hands. As she spoke, the Zon light on her body surged, and countless sword threads strangled the white-robed man into white mist, which dissipated into the air. At this moment, the Medical One clone, abandoning his usual surprise, was extremely calm, watching Chu Jing warily. Why do you have that expression? Don't you recognize me? Chu Jing smiled gently. No, Miss Jing, are we still adventuring here? Medical One immediately changed the subject, but Lu Yuan's consciousness was actually extremely calm, and he had already prepared to abandon this clone. Of course. Let's go. You need to grow faster. Comma. The strange blessed land. Demon-quelling immortal. Lu Yuan frowned slightly, a ripple rising in his heart. Could this Chu Jing be the reincarnation of a great figure from the demon-quelling mysterious sect thousands of years ago? He fell into deep thought, constantly replaying the moments he had spent with Chu Jing in his mind. Her knowledge, her methods, and her familiarity with the secrets of the demon-quelling mysterious sect all revealed an extraordinary origin. What made Lu Yuan even more wary was that Chu Jing seemed to have already noticed the abnormality of the Medical One clone. It seems I have to thoroughly investigate this demon-quelling mysterious sect from thousands of years ago. A trace of coldness flashed in Lu Yuan's eyes. With a thought, 1,000 clones immediately received a new mission, to fully collect all information about the demon-quelling mysterious sect. However, no matter what reincarnation this Chu Jing is, as long as I am in this strange blessed land, she will never be able to pose a threat to me. Lu Yuan sneered, full of confidence in his heart. The strange blessed land was hidden in infinite time and space. The strange blessed land had told Lu Yuan that no matter how powerful a Zon cultivator was, whether god or immortal, they would not be able to find this place. He gathered his thoughts and began to check the latest intelligence. Urya has become a disciple of the Star Sword sect, suspected to have a natural sword heart, a sword Dao genius, and was accepted as a disciple by the Supreme Elder. A trace of surprise flashed in Lu Yuan's eyes. I didn't expect this girl to have such talent. The Shuxi and Shuqing sisters have returned to the Medicine Flower Valley. Zhao Shi left the corpse demon sect and went in the direction of Medicine Flower Valley. Chen Yang is there. This is undoubtedly an excellent hunting opportunity. Ambushing and killing the top disciple of the corpse demon sect, I wonder how much merit Yi can gain. A sneer curled up at the corner of Lu Yuan's mouth. Yi's clone's mission to advance to a true disciple has already been issued, requiring him to kill a true disciple of the demonic path within half a year. Now it seemed that Zhao Shi was undoubtedly the most suitable target. With a thought, Lu Yuan immediately passed the information to Chen Yang, who was far away between the corpse demon sect and the Medicine Flower Valley. Comma comma, comma comma, comma comma. The yin wind howled, and ancient trees towered in the depths of the ghost forest, filled with a decaying aura. Chen Yang walked out of a mountain cave. Several dry corpses lay scattered inside the cave, all female inner disciples of the corpse demon sect, whose life force had been drained by him, reduced to cultivation nourishment. Now, Chen Yang's cultivation had reached the 8th meridian supplementing stage, and with the 3 blood demon puppets in the middle meridian supplementing stage using blood fusion, he could even fight against ordinary core condensation stage experts. Zhao Shi is coming here. Chen Yang raised his eyebrows, a playful look flashing in his eyes. Is it to investigate the disappearance of the female cultivators of the corpse demon sect? He sneered softly. Good, I'll catch some more demonic path enchantresses to lure him, and then kill Zhao Shi after Yi arrives. Chen Yang, who possessed the ability to split his soul, had already deduced Zhao Shi's purpose in a flash of thought. A sneer curled up at the corner of his mouth, and with a flicker of his figure, he disappeared into the shadows of the ghost forest. Chapter 87 Prayer Hunter. Gloomy Dust Market. This is a border market of the corpse demon sect, a desolate and silent place. The streets here are narrow and dark, with dilapidated buildings on both sides that seem ready to collapse at any moment. Occasionally, a few figures hurry past, all of whom are demonic cultivators, some even carrying the corpse demon sect's unique aura of coldness. One corner of the market is completely different from the deathly silence, with bright lights, chirping voices, and constant laughter. This is the Enchanted Dreams Pavilion, established by the corpse demon sect, specializing in providing dual cultivation pleasure for demonic cultivators. The pavilion is luxuriously decorated, filled with fragrant aromas, like a gentle haven of drunken dreams and death. At the entrance, several scantily clad female cultivators leaned against the door, their eyes alluring, softly beckoning to passers-by. Among them, a female cultivator with heavy makeup had sharp eyes, scanning the pedestrians on the street. Suddenly, her gaze stopped on a timid figure. The figure lowered his head, his steps hesitant, seemingly both yearning for and fearing this place. He wore a large cloak, the hood covering most of his face, revealing only a pale chin. Young man, are you here for some fun? The flamboyant female cultivator's lips curled into a smile, her voice carrying a hint of jest. Such novices are most liked by the Enchanted Dreams Pavilion's demonic enchantresses, because as long as these people are satisfied, even if they are drained to death through dual cultivation, it won't cause much trouble. Upon hearing the question, the figure trembled violently, as if startled. He raised his head, revealing a young and pale face, his eyes filled with panic and unease. After a long while, he stammered, I want to have some fun. The female cultivators at the door covered their mouths and giggled, their eyes full of amusement. The flamboyant female cultivator laughed even more, her body shaking, hee, fun. This sister will take you to have fun. As she spoke, she reached out her hand, pretending to pull the figure inside. Upon seeing this, the figure hurriedly retreated a few steps, and in his panic, his hood fell off, revealing a head of messy black hair and a slightly immature face. He bit his lip and said in a low voice, then, please, sister. The flamboyant female cultivator sneered, a hint of disdain flashing in her eyes, but she quickly regained her seductive demeanor. Let's go, little brother, sister guarantees to make you experience ecstasy. The young man clenched his fists, his knuckles turning white from the force. He took a deep breath, as if making some kind of resolution, and then followed the female cultivator up the stairs of the pavilion. Inside the pavilion, the fragrance became more intense, and laughter and whispers intertwined, like an invisible net, trapping people tightly. The young man's steps were somewhat unsteady, but he still followed closely behind the female cultivator. After entering the room, the flamboyant female cultivator gently closed the door and turned to lean against the young man. Unexpectedly, the young man also took the initiative to lean in, playing with the flamboyant female cultivator's pair of proud, exposed white breasts. The flamboyant female cultivator led the young man into the room, feeling vaguely uneasy. This young man was still timid just now. How could his temperament change drastically as soon as he entered the door, as if he had become a different person? I didn't expect you to be an old hand, why are you pretending to be a novice? The flamboyant female cultivator sneered, her tone mocking. The young man's lips curled up slightly, his panic completely gone, replaced by composure and jest. Indeed, I give my acting just now a perfect score. So, beauty, are you ready? The flamboyant female cultivator was stunned, then giggled, hee, of course I'm ready. Then, before the young man could finish speaking, a palm struck like lightning, directly hitting the top of the female cultivator's head. Before she could even grunt, she collapsed to the ground. The young man moved swiftly, opening the window and carrying the person. His figure flashed, and he flew away into the sky. Someone's snatching people! Someone's snatching people! Exclamations arose from within the Enchanted Dreams pavilion. But the young man had already gone far away, leaving only a residual image. Thief, where are you fleeing? A cold shout rang out, and a female cultivator in the replenishing palace realm soared into the sky, chasing directly after the young man. The young man turned his head and smiled, his speed undiminished, flying straight out of the market. Finally, in the wilderness outside the market, the replenishing palace realm female cultivator caught up with the young man. However, when she saw the flamboyant female cultivator in the young man's arms, her expression changed drastically. The female cultivator had already turned into a withered corpse, her essence and blood completely lost. Damn it! Are you Chen Yang? The female cultivator shouted angrily. The young man turned around, his disguise faded, revealing a handsome and wicked face. What, you know me? You dare to hunt down female disciples of the sect, quickly return to the sect with me to be punished. The female cultivator roared, the runes on her black sword flashing. Chen Yang sneered, his hands forming a seal. Do you think you can capture me and take me back? Yin energy permeated the air, and 12 living puppets in the gathering profound realm emerged from the ground, blocking in front of him. The female cultivator's expression tightened, her long sword in hand, directly slashing at Chen Yang. Chen Yang shook his head lightly. Prison formation, activate. The living puppet's profound energy transformed into chains, tightly binding the female cultivator. She struggled in vain, shouting, Zhao, true disciple, help. Before she could finish speaking, a figure descended from the sky, wielding a sword light as radiant as a rainbow, slashing at the living puppets. Chen Yang raised the dark red long sword in his hand to block, looking at the newcomer. It was none other than the Corpse Demon Sect's #1 true disciple, Zhao Shi. He was surrounded by 12 living puppets in the replenishing palace realm guarding him on the left and right. Late stage of the replenishing palace realm. Chen Yang, your opportunities are not small. Zhao Shi sneered indifferently. Chen Yang didn't take it to heart, he waved his hand, and the 12 living puppet clones disappeared without a trace, taking the female cultivator with them. The soul-splitting teleportation technique was activated, and the person had already been sent to the strange blessed land. Zhao Shi's expression changed, roaring, where did the person go? Chen Yang smiled, Senior brother Zhao, you should worry about yourself. Before he could finish speaking, several sword threads, as fast as lightning, pressed directly towards Zhao Shi. Zhao Shi reacted swiftly, black mist surged, and the living puppets blocked the swords but were cut into pieces. How is this possible? This is sword refinement into threads. Zhao Shi was shocked, turning around to flee. With a flash of sword light, the living puppets around Zhao Shi were all shattered, leaving only 2 who restrained his arms in reverse. Senior brother Zhao, don't be in such a hurry to leave. Chen Yang chuckled, flicking his finger, and the sword threads reappeared. Poochie. Zhao Shi's limbs were all severed, and blood spurted out. In the jungle, Yi Yi appeared, his long halberd pierced through Zhao Shi's chest, cut off his head, put it in a box, and stored it in his storage bag. Mission completed. Yi Yi nodded, his figure flashed, and he disappeared without a trace. Chen Yang stood in place, looking at Zhao Shi's headless corpse, sneering, the corpse demon sect is nothing more than this. ... Strange blessed land. Zhao Shi naively thought he could lure Chen Yang, but he didn't know that I had already seen through him. Lu Yuan sneered, opened Zhao Shi's storage bag, and hundreds of thousands of profound crystals and a faint white long sword came into view. He grasped the long sword, the sword body was like frost, the chill was pressing, the profound light flowed, and there were faint spiritual fluctuations. The blood slaughter whip obtained earlier is also a mid-grade second-order profound treasure, but it is still a bit different compared to this sword. A high-grade second-order profound treasure, indeed extraordinary. Lu Yuan lightly waved the long sword, the air hummed, and the spiritual energy vibrated. Lu Yuan currently only knows that profound treasures are divided into 3 orders, with each order having high, medium, and low grades. First-order profound treasures are called ordinary profound treasures, used by gathering profound cultivators, with limited power. Second-order profound treasures are called spiritual profound treasures, used by replenishing palace cultivators, already possessing spirituality, and their power is greatly increased. Third-order profound treasures are called celestial profound treasures, which are used by solidifying extremes cultivators and can possess one or several weapon profound techniques. Lu Yuan put away the previous high-grade first-order dark black long sword, feeling satisfied in his heart. With this high-grade second-order spiritual profound treasure, Chen Yang's strength will increase by at least 10%. Then he threw it to Chen Yang, who gripped the faint white long sword tightly, the sword body trembling slightly, as if responding to his heart. After completing the dual cultivation, you will then go outside South Forest City to prepare to attack Jin Luxin of the Star Sword sect. Lu Yuan said indifferently. During this period, he arranged for the War 3 clone in the Star Sword sect to spread rumors about Jin Luxin, saying that she had embezzled and secretly eaten hundreds of thousands of profound crystals from the Star Sword sect. Although there is some exaggeration, these messages are now rife in the Star Sword sect, and Jin Luxin is also ordered to return to the Star Sword sect soon. If she disappears at this time, who will know whether she escaped or died? Chapter 88, Interception. Upon receiving Lu Yuan's order, Chen Yang didn't hesitate for a moment. With a flash, he stepped into the prison array. Within the array, the yin energy was dense, and Zon power flowed, like an invisible giant net, firmly binding the captured female cultivator from the corpse demon sect. Although the female cultivator was at the replenishing palace realm, she was only at the early stage. Now imprisoned in the array, she couldn't move and could only let out low, muffled groans. Chen Yang's eyes were cold and stern. He formed hand seals, activated his talent, and Zon power surged around him, transforming into strange runes that wrapped around the female cultivator. The dual cultivation began. Within the array, Zon power surged, and the female cultivator's yin essence constantly poured into Chen Yang's body. The female cultivator's face gradually turned pale, and her aura grew weaker. Her cultivation was being drawn away bit by bit, transforming into Chen Yang's source of power. After a short while, the 12 Zon gathering living puppets slowly withdrew their imprisoning Zon power, and the Zon power fluctuations in the array gradually subsided. The replenishing palace realm female cultivator's body was like a dried-up husk, devoid of essence and vitality, collapsing limply on the ground, lifeless. Chen Yang slowly retracted his power, a hint of coldness flashing in his eyes. He stored the corpse in his storage bag, sat down cross-legged, and began to digest the cultivation he had just absorbed. Zon power flowed within his body, transforming into streams of pure energy, nourishing his meridians and dantian. Half a day later, Chen Yang opened his eyes, a flash of brilliance fleeting through them. He exhaled a long breath, feeling the surging Zon power within his body, and a cold smile curled on his lips. Almost there, it's time to start the operation. Before his voice faded, his figure had already disappeared from the strange blessed land. Boom boom boom. Above the sky, dark clouds churned, and thunder roared, as if to tear this world apart. Several hundred miles outside South Forest Market, a dilapidated ancient temple stood alone in the wind and rain, appearing particularly desolate. Inside the temple, 5 figures were sheltering from the sudden downpour. If I find out who is spreading rumors behind my back, I will make them wish they were dead. Jin Luxin said through gritted teeth, her brow filled with anger. She had been summoned by the sect and had to leave in a hurry, but unexpectedly, the heavens were uncooperative, and such a heavy rain had forced her to hide in this dilapidated temple for temporary shelter. Miss, I'm afraid this matter is the work of those true disciple brothers. They are capable of anything to compete for favor, a follower said in a low voice, with a hint of resentment in his tone. Jin Luxin snorted coldly, a hint of disdain flashing in her eyes. It was common practice for true disciples to secretly trip each other up to compete for resources and power. However, someone in the Star Sword sect was now openly targeting her, forcing her to return to the sect ahead of schedule. What made her even more uneasy was that, along the way, she always felt a pair of eyes watching her in the dark, as if a poisonous snake was lurking, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Creak. The door of the dilapidated temple was pushed open, and a gust of cold wind mixed with raindrops swept into the temple. Jin Luxin suddenly raised her head, her gaze warily fixed on the doorway. She saw a black-robed figure slowly walking in, exuding a cold aura, as if a death god had emerged from hell. His face was hidden beneath the black robe, with only a pair of icy eyes revealing a chilling killing intent. Bold demonic cultivator, how dare you stealthily follow this young lady? Jin Luxin asked in a cold voice, her hand already quietly gripping a Zon treasure. The black-robed man sneered, his voice like the ice of the 9 netherworlds. Jin Luxin of the Star Sword sect. Today is your day of death. Before his voice faded, he waved his hands, and several strands of sword light as thin as hair suddenly burst forth, wrapping around Jin Luxin's followers like poisonous snakes. Before the followers could react, their bodies were pierced by the sword threads, blood gushed out, and they instantly fell to the ground, dead. Jin Luxin's pupils shrank, and just as she was about to counterattack, she felt a pain in her limbs. The tendons of her hands and feet had been severed by the sword threads, and she collapsed limply to the ground. She gritted her teeth, her eyes filled with anger and unwillingness. You demonic cultivator dares to appear in my Star Sword sect's territory. The black-robed man looked at her coldly, then began to remove her clothes. Despicable, how dare you? You demonic cultivator, you are audacious and reckless. My Star Sword sect will not let you go. Ha ha ha, let me go. Why would I need the Star Sword sect to let me go? Chen Yang mocked. This Jin Luxin was completely courting death. Daring to collect 100,000 Zon crystals from the Horizon Commerce Alliance, that moment had already sealed her fate. Directly starting dual cultivation, his talent unfolded, brutally and mercilessly beginning to absorb this Jin Luxin. Feeling Chen Yang's intrusion, Jin Luxin screamed loudly. I am Jin Luxin, a true disciple of the Star Sword sect. Damn demonic cultivator, I will not let you go. You just wait. Jin Luxin's exquisite body was manipulated at will in Chen Yang's hands. Because the tendons of her hands and feet were severed, she couldn't escape at all, unable to even crawl. Ha ha ha, really? What you said makes me want to leave you alive, to see if you can kill me. Chen Yang mercilessly increased his efforts. Such behavior finally made Jin Luxin feel fear, and she began to beg bitterly, let me go, I won't pursue you. Chen Yang turned a deaf ear, relentlessly extracting. There are hundreds of thousands of Zon crystals in my storage bag, all yours, let me go, please. What a joke, everything you have is mine now. I will not let you go even as a ghost. Why do these women always say this? After a while, he had completely devoured Jin Luxin's yin essence and cultivation, and her body had turned into a dry corpse, without any vitality. Chen Yang retracted his power, his cold gaze swept across the corpses on the ground, and a cold smile curled on his lips. After storing these corpses in his storage bag, he disappeared. Strange blessed land. Lu Yuan held the storage bag tightly in his hand, which contained more than 200,000 Zon crystals. These Zon crystals were all ill-gotten gains that Jin Luxin had acquired over the years through her position. He guessed that Jin Luxin's return to the sect was definitely because she was afraid that the sect would find out about her misdeeds and punish her. That's why she planned to hand over the Zon crystals to protect herself. But now, these Zon crystals all belong to him. Not far away, Chen Yang was sitting cross-legged, fully digesting the cultivation he had extracted from Jin Luxin. Ending his cultivation, Chen Yang's 8th replenishment realm had faintly reached its peak. If I continue cultivating like this, coupled with the existing accumulation of cultivation, I will be able to break through to the replenishing palace completion realm in less than a month. Chen Yang muttered to himself, his eyes flashing with excitement. Lu Yuan was also overjoyed in his heart. Chen Yang's improvement was indirectly equal to his improvement. Looking at the storage bag in his hand, he pondered. However, the restrictions on the Blood Demon Peak Lord's storage bag are really troublesome. After all, it was set by a core convergence realm expert, and I haven't been able to unlock it yet. I wonder if there are any core convergence pills inside. If not, it will be difficult to break through to the core convergence realm. The core convergence pill is the key item for Zon cultivators to break through from the replenishing palace realm to the core convergence realm, and can help Zon cultivators condense the extremely crucial core Zon power. After thinking for a moment, Lu Yuan's consciousness descended into his clone and began to check the latest situation of each sect. A day later, the news of Jin Luxin's disappearance spread back to the Star Sword sect. The Star Sword sect was in an uproar, and rumors quickly spread that Jin Luxin had fled in fear of punishment. But to everyone's surprise, the Star Sword sect did not send out disciples to investigate the matter. Lu Yuan felt very puzzled about this and secretly speculated on the Star Sword sect's intentions. A few days later, he learned that the Heavenly Feather Dao Palace, a righteous sect in the western region of Cloud Marsh State, was about to go to the Star Sword sect to conduct exchange activities between the disciples of the two sects. Chapter 89, Sword Fighting. The Heavenly Feather Dao Palace was as famous as the Heavenly Demon sect, both being top-tier great sects in the western regions. However, the western frontier where the Star Sword sect was located was just a barren and desolate land west of the western regions, with scarce resources, and the sect's power was far inferior to those giants of the western regions. Has the Heavenly Feather Dao Palace come this time to deter the Heavenly Demon sect? Lu Yuan muttered to himself, a glint of shrewdness flashing in his eyes. This may be an opportunity for the Skymark Chamber of Commerce. He knew clearly that neither the righteous nor the demonic paths would tolerate the rise of other forces on their own turf. If the Skymark Chamber of Commerce wanted to develop, it would inevitably have to bypass the Star Sword sect, this stumbling block. However, the current Star Sword sect had several core formation realm experts, and even a late-stage core formation realm existence to oversee it. Even if Chen Yang already possessed core formation realm combat power, he was by no means a match for such a great sect. But if he could gain the approval of the Heavenly Feather Dao Palace, and even develop under its protection, the Skymark Chamber of Commerce would have the opportunity to grow stronger in the Star Sword sect's territory. Thinking of this, a hint of determination flashed in Lu Yuan's eyes, and he decided to take the initiative to find an opportunity to approach the people of the Heavenly Feather Dao Palace. With a thought, his consciousness descended on Zan San. At this moment, Zan San was standing in the ranks of the Star Sword sect's inner disciples, his expression as calm as water. The surrounding inner disciples all looked respectful, their eyes full of anticipation. They knew the power of the Heavenly Feather Dao Palace, and if they could establish contact with it, it would bring great benefits not only to themselves but even to the entire Star Sword sect. Just as everyone was eagerly waiting, a dazzling light suddenly appeared in the distant sky, and an incomparably magnificent flying ship cut through the sky and sped towards them. From above the flying ship, several streams of light streaked down, precisely the people of the Heavenly Feather Dao Palace. The middle-aged male cultivator at the head, dressed in a snow-white Taoist robe, stood tall and straight like a pine tree, his temperament extraordinary, like an immortal who did not eat the food of mortals. His eyes were like lightning as he slowly swept over the crowd, followed by a dozen young boys and girls, each with a calm demeanor and unique aura, obviously elite disciples of the Heavenly Feather Dao Palace. The sect leader of the Star Sword sect, a kind-faced old man with wise eyes, hurriedly stepped forward, his face full of smiles. Welcome, esteemed guests of the Heavenly Feather Dao Palace, to our Star Sword sect. It is truly an honor. The white-robed Taoist nodded slightly, his eyes like lightning, slowly sweeping over the crowd. He coughed lightly and said, I am Ming Shu from the Heavenly Feather Dao Palace. I have come this time, firstly, to conduct exchanges and sparring with your esteemed sect, and secondly, to see if there are any outstanding juniors with talent. If I can take them into my Heavenly Feather Dao Palace, it would be a wonderful thing. Upon hearing this, the sect leader of the Star Sword sect flashed a hint of surprise in his eyes and quickly said, that would be truly wonderful. Although these young disciples of my Star Sword sect are not outstanding, they all have some potential, and I hope Taoist Ming Shu can give them some guidance. The Star Sword sect was originally a subordinate force of the Heavenly Feather Dao Palace, so it was naturally qualified to select disciples to send to the Heavenly Feather Dao Palace. Ming Shu nodded slightly and said in a calm tone, your sect and mine are originally of the same lineage, this is only natural. You are too kind, Ming Shu. Please come inside. Sect leader of the Star Sword sect, Wei Wuyi, stepped aside, his face full of smiles. Brother Wei, please. Ming Shu bowed slightly and walked side by side with Wei Wuyi towards the sect. Subsequently, Wei Wuyi quickly instructed his disciples to prepare for the exchange battle. The disciples had already prepared the venue properly, and all that remained was the arrangement of personnel. Everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. Zhan San stood in the ranks, his expression calm, but his heart was surging. The opportunity has come. Lu Yuan thought to himself, without the slightest hesitation in his eyes. Weird blessed land, copy the sword intent onto Zhan San. Do you want to spend 5,000 fate points to copy the destruction sword intent? Copy. Lu Yuan did not hesitate. These 5,000 fate points were the result of Lu Yuan's accumulation for more than a month, precisely to cope with this kind of critical moment. The Weird Blessed Land's copying method had no hidden dangers and did not involve the copying of esoteric techniques. Even experts of the Heavenly Feather Dao Palace would find it difficult to detect abnormalities. Zhan San already possessed the star-severing sword technique, although only at the proficient level, but based on this sword technique, to display the sword intent, Lu Yuan had full confidence that even core formation realm experts would find it difficult to see through. After all, the sword intent depends on the person, on the cultivation technique. Even if it was a sword intent derived from a demonic sword technique, if the person had no evil thoughts, and all their cultivation techniques and esoteric arts were righteous, it would be difficult to distinguish from the surface. Once Zhan San successfully entered the Heavenly Feather Dao Palace, Lu Yuan would have a way to use his identity to secretly pave the way for the development of the Skymark Chamber of Commerce. Soon, the exchange battle officially began. The first one sent out by the Star Sword sect was a direct disciple, and the opponent was a young girl from the Heavenly Feather Dao Palace. The Star Sword sect disciple held the star-severing sword, the sword light like a rainbow, the momentum pressing. However, the battle process was unexpected. The young girl from the Heavenly Feather Dao Palace's swordplay was agile, her movements ethereal, and she gained the upper hand in just a few moves. Although the Star Sword sect's direct disciple tried his best to resist, he was ultimately no match and was defeated. The sect leader of the Star Sword sect, Wei Wuyi, frowned slightly and turned to Ming Shu and said, Taoist Ming Shu, your palace's disciple's swordplay is indeed exquisite, and her movements are even more ethereal, admirable. Ming Shu smiled faintly, with a hint of praise in his tone. Brother Wei, you flatter me. This girl is named Lu Qingxuang. Although she is young, she is quite talented in the sword Dao. Her swordplay is mainly light and agile, emphasizing using softness to overcome hardness, which forms a clear contrast with your sect's star-severing sword technique. Wei Wuyi nodded and said, indeed. The star-severing sword technique emphasizes being strong and overbearing, advancing without retreat, but if it encounters a swordplay that uses softness to overcome hardness, it is easily restrained. It seems that my Star Sword sect disciples still need to hone their skills. Ming Shu's eyes were deep as he slowly said, in the sword Dao, the combination of strength and softness is the best. If your sect's star-severing sword technique can incorporate some agile changes, there may be a greater breakthrough. Upon hearing this, Wei Wuyi flashed a hint of displeasure in his eyes, then smiled again. Taoist Ming Shu is right, I am enlightened. In the following few battles, the Star Sword sect's direct disciples still failed to win. The atmosphere on the field gradually became heavy, and the faces of the Star Sword sect's disciples became even more unsightly. The direct disciples represented the level of the entire Star Sword sect, and repeated defeats were undoubtedly slapping the Star Sword sect's face. Half a day later, all the direct disciples were defeated, and it was the inner disciples' turn to take the stage. A female inner disciple stepped out, her expression firm, with a hint of unyieldingness in her eyes. Her opponent was a handsome young man from the Heavenly Feather Dao Palace, his eyes filled with confidence and disdain. Why not end it? Even the direct disciples are no good, and the inner disciples dare to come out, truly ignorant. The Heavenly Feather Dao Palace youth sneered, his tone full of contempt. Upon hearing this, a flash of anger flashed in the inner disciple's eyes, but she still cupped her fists and saluted, Senior brother, please. The battle began, and the female inner disciple did not hesitate to display the star-severing sword technique, the sword energy crisscrossing, the sword light like a rainbow, instantly enveloping the entire arena. However, her sword technique realm was only at the pinnacle of perfection. Although the momentum was pressing, it lacked some agility and change. The Heavenly Feather Dao Palace youth sneered, his figure like a shadow, easily avoiding the edge of the sword energy. He stepped on the ground, and the ground suddenly shook, a powerful burst of energy directly shattering the sword energy. Immediately afterwards, his figure flashed, and with a kick, the female inner disciple had no time to react and was kicked directly, heavily falling outside the arena, spitting out a mouthful of blood. There was an uproar in the audience, and the faces of the Star Sword sect disciples became even more unsightly. The heavenly feather Dao Palace youth stood on the arena, looking down at the female inner disciple who had fallen to the ground, and said lightly, "With just this little skill, you dare to come on stage and embarrass yourself." Wei Wuyi frowned, a hint of anger flashing in his eyes, but he forcibly suppressed it. Ming Shu shook his head slightly, his tone indifferent. "Brother Wei, your sect's disciples still need to hone their skills." Chapter 90 Inner Gate Genius. The arena was deathly silent. A Tianyu Dao Palace disciple stood with his hands behind his back, with several Star Sword sect inner disciples lying at his feet, all pale-faced and spitting blood. The faces of the Star Sword sect members on the sidelines were ashen. Even the core disciples clenched their fists, but no one dared to step forward. After all, the core disciples had all been defeated, not to mention the inner disciples. Now, no disciple even dared to step forward to challenge him. "The mighty Star Sword sect can't even find someone who can withstand 3 moves from me." The Tianyu Dao Palace youth sneered, flicking dust from his robe. "I'll do it." A calm voice suddenly came from behind the crowd, causing the surrounding disciples to turn their heads. Zhan San slowly walked out, holding a low-grade profound iron treasure in his hand. The sword sheath was even covered in moss, the most basic sword for inner disciples. Zhan San. He's just a newly promoted inner disciple, only at the late stage of the gathering profound realm. That Tianyu Dao Palace disciple is at the mid-stage of the palace completion realm and has superb swordsmanship. How can he win? That's right. Isn't this just going up to embarrass himself? Quick, stop him, some disciples whispered. The Tianyu Dao Palace youth sized up Zhan San and sneered, "Even your sword is a low-grade profound iron treasure. Is the Star Sword sect really out of talent?" Zhan San didn't speak, his thumb lightly pushing the sword hilt. The moment the iron sword was drawn, Ming Shu's originally half-closed eyes suddenly opened. Buzz. The sword's hum was like a dragon's roar. Zhan San's body was surging with sword energy, even more fierce than the previous core disciples, star-severing sword. Even more bizarre was that a wisp of black light suddenly burst out from the powerful sword energy, tearing the air like a crack in a deep abyss. How can the star-severing sword technique have such a change? Wei Wuyi suddenly straightened his body. The Tianyu Dao Palace youth's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly summoned his protective profound light. However, Zhan San's sword had already arrived. Clearly, it was the most basic, Starfall style, but at this moment, it was carrying a destructive aura of crushing force. Where the sword light passed, the Zhan armor on the youth's arms shattered, and his entire body flew backward, crashing into the barrier, actually embedding himself into the Zhan power barrier. "Extinguish!" Zhan San shouted lowly, the iron sword pointing directly at the other party's brow. The black light at the tip of the sword flickered, suddenly stopping 3 inches from the youth's eyeball. The Zhan power barrier on the arena buzzed and trembled. Faced with the powerful sword intent, the Tianyu Dao Palace youth slumped on the edge of the barrier, fragments of his Zhan armor scattered all over the ground. He stared fixedly at the iron sword in Zhan San's hand, his face flushed red as blood, and suddenly roared, "I'm not convinced. You must have used some kind of evil art." Before he could finish speaking, he suddenly bit the tip of his tongue, spitting a mouthful of essence blood onto the jade pendant at his waist. The jade pendant suddenly exploded, turning into a streak of blood-colored sword shadow that stabbed straight at Zhan San's back. It was actually the Tianyu Dao Palace's secret, blood-burning sword curse. "Impudent!" Ming Shu shouted coldly, a piece of green feather flying out from his sleeve. The green feather lightly collided with the blood-colored sword shadow, but it was like a giant mountain crushing down, instantly grinding the sword curse into dust. The aftermath swept across the arena, causing the Tianyu Dao Palace youth to bleed from all 7 orifices and pass out. The victory has been decided. Isn't it shameful enough? This is nascent sword intent. You are no match. Ming Shu's gaze swept across the Tianyu Dao Palace disciple ranks, and all the young men and women lowered their heads. However, as soon as the words, "sword intent," came out, the Star Sword sect disciples on the sidelines had already exploded. Sword intent. He actually comprehended sword intent. Even senior Sister Yi couldn't comprehend sword intent, yet it was comprehended by an inner disciple. Several core disciples had ashen faces, especially a cold and beautiful woman carrying 2 swords on her back, her fingertips almost digging into her palm. She had painstakingly cultivated the star-severing sword technique for 10 years, but had never been able to touch the threshold of sword intent. The entire venue was filled with constant discussions. A fine crack silently appeared in the teacup in Ming Shu's hand. Good. It's actually sword intent. Wei Wuya suddenly laughed loudly, but the corner of his eye glanced at Ming Shu. I didn't expect that there would be such unpolished jade in my sect. However, Zan San, the change in your sword intent is somewhat strange. It was comprehended by this disciple from the broken steel on the stargazing cliff. Zan San sheathed his sword, the black light instantly disappearing. The inscription on the steel was incomplete, and this disciple speculated wildly, making the sect leader laugh. Lu Yuan, whose consciousness had descended, had no choice but to fabricate a story. Ming Shu suddenly stood up, his fingers in his sleeve imperceptibly forming a hand seal. An invisible aura swept across Zan San's body, discovering that there was no demonic aura at all. Sect leader Wei, your sect is truly full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. This disciple is only at the late stage of the gathering profound realm, yet he has mastered sword intent. A gleam of light flowed in Ming Shu's eyes, and the laziness from before completely faded away. Moreover, the sword intent seems simple, but it secretly contains the mysteries of destruction. If I'm not mistaken. He suddenly raised his hand, and a wisp of sword energy was stripped from Zan San's iron sword, turning into a pitch-black star in his palm. This is the extremely rare, army breaker, true meaning of your sect star-severing sword. Wei Wuya's smile stiffened slightly. He secretly sighed that he hadn't been able to see it and had let Ming Shu show off again. Fellow Taoist Ming Shu has good eyes. The old sect leader quickly regained his composure. Zan San, why don't you thank this senior for his guidance? Just as Zan San was about to salute, Ming Shu raised his hand to stop him. Not bad. I see that your bone age is only 20, yet you can practice the star-severing sword to such a degree. Would you be willing to return to the Tianyudao Palace with me to cultivate? There was an uproar in the venue. The Tianyudao Palace taking the initiative to recruit disciples from subordinate sects was the first time in 100 years. Wei Wuya's face was filled with a gratified smile. To be valued by fellow Taoist Ming Shu is this child's good fortune. The Star Sword sect was originally a subordinate force that sent disciples to the Tianyudao Palace. This allowed Wei Wuya to have more support in the future, so he was naturally very happy. Naturally. Ming Shu looked at Zan San meaningfully. I will leave in 3 days. If you want to go to the Tianyudao Palace, come to the flying boat and leave with me. After the crowd dispersed, Wei Wuya summoned Zan San alone. The old sect leader stood with his back to the disciple on the star-gazing platform, and suddenly said in a deep voice, Are you willing to go to the Tianyudao Palace? I will do as the sect leader commands. Zan San lowered his head. Go ahead, but remember that my sect belongs to the Tianyudao Palace, the Sun and Moon Sword Vein. If you encounter difficulties, you can go to find true cultivator Ming Yang. Wei Wuya looked at Zan San and instructed. Yes, this disciple obeys. Zan San cupped his hands. A few days later, Zan San successfully boarded the Tianyudao Palace flying boat, but even the Star Sword sect leader accompanied him to Medicine Flower Valley. The heavenly light was like a waterfall, scattering within the majestic Medicine Flower Valley. The disciples in the valley gathered, more than 15,000 people lined up on both sides, their Zan robes like clouds, their momentum magnificent. On the central high platform, the Medicine Flower Valley master sat on the jade seat, wearing a green sha robe, with picturesque eyebrows and a refined temperament. Her eyes were like water, but they revealed an unquestionable majesty, as if the spiritual rhyme between heaven and earth gathered in her body. Ming Shu and Wei Wuya stood side by side on the side of the high platform. Although the two were noble, they seemed particularly low-key at this moment. Ming Shu's gaze was indifferent, as if he was thinking about something. Wei Wuya nodded slightly, a trace of gratification flashing in his eyes. Now that Zan San had successfully boarded the Tianyudao Palace flying boat, if he grew up, the Star Sword sect would have another backer in the Tianyudao Palace. Today is the ceremony for the inner disciples of my Medicine Flower Valley to enter the core lineage. The valley master's voice was clear and cold, but it was like a great bell, echoing throughout the valley. All those who enter the core lineage are the elites of my valley, the pillars of the future. As soon as her voice fell, the disciples below all held their breath and focused, their eyes burning as they looked at the high platform. Yi, come forward to receive the title. The valley master lightly raised her jade hand, and with a point of her fingertip, a green light landed on a young man below the stage. The young man had a cold face, with a hint of killing intent between his eyebrows. It was Yi. Yi, the first core disciple of the corpse demon sect, Zhao Shi, has made great contributions. Today, he enters my sect's core lineage. The valley master's voice was calm, but every word was like thunder. I bestow upon you the third order alchemy technique, medicine flower true scripture, as well as the method of cultivating the good medicine Tao soldier. Yi knelt on one knee, accepted a cyan jade slip with both hands, and said in a deep voice, "Disciple Yi, thank you for the Valley Master's great kindness." There was a burst of whispers below the stage. Senior brother Yi is indeed powerful, he can even kill the first core disciple of the corpse demon sect. That's Zhao Shi, who is said to be in the late stage of the palace completion realm. Senior brother Yi can actually defeat him. The Valley Master nodded slightly and continued, "Next, the one who enters the core lineage, Li Xuanfeng." A slender young man stepped forward, and the Valley Master said lightly, "Li Xuanfeng, refined the second order high-grade Zon pill, 9 revolutions spirit soul pill. When the pill was completed, it triggered the anomalies of heaven and earth. He enters the core lineage and is bestowed the Dan Fire True Art." Disciple Li Xuanfeng, "Thank you, Valley Master." Li Xuanfeng respectfully saluted, unable to hide the excitement in his eyes. Subsequently, 4 more people stepped forward in turn, each entering the core lineage due to outstanding performance. The Valley Master bestowed techniques and resources one by one, her words concise but full of majesty. The disciples below were all excited, and some whispered, "The 6 people who entered the core lineage this time are all geniuses. Especially senior brother Yi, who can even kill the core disciple of the corpse demon sect, will surely be the mainstay of my medicine flower valley in the future." Above the high platform, Ming Shu's eyes flickered slightly, and he whispered to Wei Wuya, "The medicine flower valley has a deep foundation, no wonder it can stand firm in the western Qi region for thousands of years." Wei Wuya stroked his beard and smiled, "Fellow Taoist Ming Shu is too kind. My Star Sword sect and Medicine Flower Valley are both righteous paths, and are also protected by the Tianyudao Palace." The Valley Master seemed to be aware of something, and glanced at the two of them lightly, but did not say much. She stood up, waved her long sleeves, and her voice was like the Zon sound of the 9 heavens. "Today's ceremony ends here. I hope that all disciples will cultivate diligently and strive to create greater glories for my Medicine Flower Valley. We respectfully obey the Valley Master's orders." 15,000 disciples responded in unison, their voices shaking the sky. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 91, Plotting for War. The valley was filled with the fragrance of herbs, enveloped in clouds and mist, with verdant pines and cypresses, and the murmuring of flowing water, resembling a fairyland. Magnificent halls and pavilions were faintly visible, surrounded by a celestial aura. In a grand hall, 3 experts at the peak of the condensation realm sat solemnly, with true disciples from various factions standing behind them, including Yi and Zan San. Valley Master Shu, the Medicine Flower Valley is indeed ever flourishing, even able to withstand the heavenly demon sect schemes, Wei Wuya said, his tone laced with flattery. After the war, the Orthodox faction seized half of the Shadow Death sect's territory. If the Star Sword sect hadn't been unwilling to expend more strength, the Shadow Death sect would probably have been destroyed long ago. The Medicine Flower Valley benefited greatly from this war, acquiring a large amount of land. Sect leader Wei is too kind, Valley Master Shu replied with a slight nod, her expression indifferent. Valley Master Shu, how has your esteemed valley considered the alliance proposed by my heavenly Feather Dao Palace? Elder Ming Shu asked. To resist the heavenly demon sect, an alliance is naturally feasible, Valley Master Shu replied. Excellent, Ming Shu said with a smile, then please have the Medicine Flower Valley refine an additional 100,000 Tier 2 Yang Profound pills. My Dao Palace will purchase them at market price. Although 100,000 pills are many, with the aid of the good medicine Dao soldiers, my valley can still complete the task. Elder Ming Shu need not worry, Valley Master Shu said confidently. The Yang Profound pill was the most commonly used pill by cultivators in the palace building realm, favored for both cultivation and Zon power recovery. By the way, Valley Master Shu, does your esteemed valley have any disciples willing to join my Dao Palace for cultivation? Ming Shu asked with a meaningful look. Thank you for Elder Ming Shu's kindness, but my sect's inheritance is complex, with only a small portion originating from the heavenly Feather Dao Palace. It may not be suitable for my disciples to join your esteemed palace, Valley Master Shu politely declined. The Medicine Flower Valley was different from the Star Sword sect, not a subordinate force completely dependent on the heavenly Feather Dao Palace. Very well, Ming Shu said, not pressing the matter, and instead said, refining Yang Profound pills requires a rare medicinal herb called Yang Profound grass. How about letting the Star Sword sect acquire it? I wonder what the Valley Master thinks. Valley Master Shu's expression changed slightly. Elder Ming Shu, my sect still has a stock of Yang profound grass. There is no need to purchase more. Ming Shu, however, dismissed her concerns. My Dao Palace needs a large quantity of high-quality Tier 2 Yang profound pills. The materials must be fresh. Let the Star Sword sect handle this matter. Refining pills only required looking at the finished product, with profits mainly derived from the medicinal herbs and the pill refining process itself. Clearly, Ming Shu's move was intended to restrict the Medicine Flower Valley's growth, preventing it from monopolizing the profits. Haha, Valley Master Shu, rest assured, I will definitely provide top-quality medicinal herbs, Wei Wuya immediately chimed in. He was reluctant to offend the Medicine Flower Valley, but he had no choice but to comply with Ming Shu's request. Since that's the case, then we'll do as Elder Ming Shu says. Valley Master Shu reluctantly agreed, but immediately added, however, the Star Sword sect does not have any large-scale commercial alliances under its jurisdiction, and the disciples in the sect have limited knowledge of herbs. It is unknown whether they can provide sufficient Yang profound grass in time. If the pill refinement is delayed as a result, my valley will not be responsible. Upon hearing this, Wei Wuya was immediately at a loss for words. Although the Star Sword sect had several markets under its jurisdiction, they were all small businesses. The 100,000 Yang profound pills required by the Heavenly Feather Dao Palace required a supply of Yang profound grass that these small businesses could not easily provide. Valley Master Shu watched with interest from the side. Just as Wei Wuya was in a difficult position, Zhan San suddenly stepped forward and whispered a few words in his ear. Are you sure? Wei Wuya frowned. Disciple is certain. There were rumors in the sect before that senior sister Jin fled in fear of punishment because of this matter, Zhan San replied in a low voice. Good. Wei Wuya nodded and then looked at Ming Shu. My Star Sword sect is willing to take on this matter. Upon hearing this, Valley Master Shu's expression darkened. Sect leader Wei, this matter is no small matter and should not be taken lightly. Wei Wuya looked at Zhan San and, remembering the recent rumors about the Horizon Commerce Alliance, said firmly, Valley Master Shu, rest assured, I, Wei Wuya, will never break my word. With this, the Star Sword sect had taken on this transaction. Night fell. Zhan San, who should have been in the guest pavilion of the Medicine Flower Valley, appeared in a jungle. He was about to leave the western wastelands, but this was a clone without a divided soul. It would not be controlled by the central clone once it left the 3,000-mile range of the western wastelands, and Lu Yuan would not be able to control it. It would become like a vegetable, but Lu Yuan had already thought of a solution, which was to transfer the divided soul from Yi Yi's body to Zhan San. Yi Yi had been waiting for a long time. The moment Zhan San appeared, the two returned to the strange blessed land, and when they reappeared, the transfer of the divided soul had been completed. This was also Chen Yang's experiment, allowing the divided soul to struggle and cultivate independently to see what level it could reach. Of course, there was no need to worry about any betrayal or the birth of independent consciousness. During the refining process, the strange blessed land completely avoided such possibilities. Shadow Death Sect Border Market. This place was shrouded in a deathly aura all year round. Chen Yang's figure quietly appeared in the stall area, which was filled with all kinds of low-level Zon treasures, dazzling but without any treasures. His eyes swept around and finally stopped in front of a stall. The stall owner was a thin cultivator with a cultivation level of only the third level of the gathering Zon realm, looking unremarkable. Chen Yang casually picked up a long banner Zon treasure, carefully examined it, and then looked up at the thin cultivator, his tone calm but with a hint of meaning. How much does this Zon treasure cost, sir? A simple smile flashed in the thin cultivator's eyes, and he rubbed his hands, smiling. 500 Zon crystals, a fair price, honest and reliable. Chen Yang chuckled, his tone playful. Such a cheap price is rare. The thin cultivator seemed to relax a bit, scratched his head, and said honestly, that's natural. My stall has always been reasonably priced and never cheats customers. Chen Yang's eyes narrowed, and his tone suddenly turned cold. However, I'm curious, why can you still be so calm when you see me? Do you really think this is just a coincidence? The thin cultivator's face changed drastically. The honest smile instantly froze, and then he put on a flattering expression, chuckling dryly. Brother Chen, what are you saying? How dare I? I was just joking with you. Don't mind it. Chen Yang glanced at him indifferently, his tone unquestionable. Come with me. The two of them walked one after the other to a restaurant in the market. Chen Yang casually found a corner to sit down, his eyes like knives sweeping towards the thin cultivator, and said coldly, "Why don't you remove your disguise?" Upon hearing this, the thin cultivator's face changed. Then, he raised his hand and wiped his face. His originally thin figure and appearance quickly changed, and in the blink of an eye, he turned into a fat man, who was none other than Qian Cha. Qian Cha chuckled twice, rubbed his hands, and said with a flattering tone, "Haha, Brother Chen, I wonder what you want from me." Chen Yang didn't waste any words and directly threw him a long sword. The long sword was cold and sharp, and Zan power faintly flowed on the sword, which was Zhao Shi's Tier 2 high-grade Zan treasure long sword. Qian Cha took the long sword, his face instantly turned pale, and his hands trembled a little. He naturally recognized this sword. How many times had he died under this sword in his dreams? He looked up at Chen Yang, his voice trembling. This is Zhao Shi's sword. You killed him." Chen Yang smiled coldly, his tone disdainful. "Do you think it's difficult for me to kill him?" Qian Cha swallowed and quickly said with a smile, "Haha, of course it's not difficult. Good kill. Good kill. Zhao Shi should have died long ago." His heart was filled with stormy waves. Since being rescued by Chen Yang last time, he had personally witnessed Chen Yang's methods, and after the fact, he had inquired in many ways and learned that it was sword intent. He immediately understood that this person in front of him was a sword Dao genius, 1 in 10,000, who had already comprehended sword intent. Such a person was simply not someone he could provoke. Chen Yang ignored his flattery and said directly, "I want you to put this thing in Ying Mo Ran's storage bag. Is there any problem?" Upon hearing this, Qian Cha's face changed again, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He looked at the long sword in his hand, then looked at Chen Yang, struggled in his heart for a moment, and finally gritted his teeth and nodded, "No problem. This subordinate will definitely do it well." Although he didn't know why Chen Yang was able to find him, he knew very well that this person in front of him was definitely not someone he could offend. What's more, he had already agreed to become Chen Yang's subordinate, so at this time, he could only bite the bullet and accept this task. Chen Yang nodded, his tone indifferent. "Remember, if this matter is messed up, you know the consequences." Qian Cha nodded and bowed repeatedly. "Brother Chen, rest assured, this subordinate will definitely handle it properly." Chen Yang didn't say anything more, got up and left, leaving Qian Cha alone sitting in the restaurant, holding the long sword, his heart filled with mixed feelings. Chapter 92 Framed. The corpse demon sect was filled with corpse energy, and eerie winds swept through. In the handyman area of Corpse Severance Peak, 2 handyman disciples hid in a corner, conversing in hushed tones. "Have you heard? Senior brother Zhao Shi is dead. It's said he was killed by Ying Moran of the Shadow Death sect." A disciple with a somewhat green face lowered his voice, a hint of fear in his eyes. "How could I not have heard? This matter has already spread throughout the entire heavenly demon sect. Senior brother Zhao Shi was our sect's #1 true disciple, with extremely high talent, deeply valued by the sect leader, and he just died like that." Another disciple gritted his teeth, his face full of resentment. "Alas, what will the sect do? Will they start a war with the Shadow Death sect? After all, senior brother Zhao Shi was the future of our sect." It's hard to say. The Shadow Death sect's strength is not weak, belonging to the same demonic path. Why would they attack senior brother Zhao Shi? I heard that senior brother Zhao Shi seemed to have discovered some secret of the Shadow Death sect, which is why he was silenced. Really? If that's the case, the sect will definitely not let it go. Just then, a gust of eerie wind swept past, and the two immediately fell silent, shrinking their necks, not daring to speak again. After the wind passed, the green-faced disciple whispered, "I hope the sect can avenge senior brother Zhao Shi. This is related to our sect's reputation." Similar rumors had already spread like wildfire within the corpse demon sect. Not only handyman disciples were discussing it, but outer and inner disciples were also talking about it. Zhao Shi's death was like a boulder thrown into a calm lake, stirring up layers of waves. Corpse Severance Peak, Corpse Lord Hall. Several flying ships slowly landed. Chu Hen, the #1 true disciple of the Heavenly Demon Sect, the Shadow Death Sect leader, and Yuan of the Ghost Fiend Sect, 3 Ningji realm experts, arrived with a group of disciples. The Corpse Demon Sect's sect leader, Crimson Corpse, personally came out to greet them, his face grim. "You have come from afar, I wonder what brings you here." Chu Hen spoke first, his tone carrying a hint of aggressiveness. "Sect leader Crimson Corpse, we have come today for one thing only. The elders of the profound Nether Holy Land are about to arrive in a year. In this war against the righteous path, your sect suffered the least losses. We demand that your sect give up a spot. Crimson Corpse's face darkened upon hearing this. True disciple Chu, why should my corpse demon sect give up a spot? Chu Hen sneered, his gaze like a knife. The Shadow Death sect lost 2 Ningji realm experts, while your sect only lost 1, that is the reason. Moreover, the deaths of Ting Ting and Ting Fang of the Ghost Fiend sect were caused by Chen Yang. Although Chen Yang is a disciple of your sect, he has already betrayed and joined the righteous path. Now, we are only asking you to give up 1 spot, which is already a bargain for you. True disciple Chu, don't spout nonsense. Chen Yang is a spy from the righteous path, his actions have nothing to do with my sect. Moreover, my sect's #1 true disciple, Zhao Shi, also died a few days ago. Rumors say it was done by Ying Moran of the Shadow Death sect. I also need an explanation for this matter. Crimson Corpse laughed in anger. That's impossible. The Shadow Death sect leader immediately retorted, Ying Moran was injured in the war and has been recuperating. He only came with me today. If that's the case, then let Ying Moran come out and confront him. Crimson Corpse said coldly. Ying Moran slowly walked out of the crowd, his figure tall and straight, his eyes clear and cold. Facing the gaze of several Ningji realm experts, he remained calm and composed. I am here, sect leader Crimson, what are your instructions? Take him down and search his soul. Crimson Corpse ordered without hesitation. No. The Shadow Death sect leader immediately protected Ying Moran, his tone firm. The soul-searching technique is extremely damaging to the divine soul, and carelessness can leave irreparable consequences. Crimson Corpse's face was gloomy, and the atmosphere between the two sides instantly became tense. At this moment, a true disciple of the Corpse Demon sect stepped forward. It was Ma Yu, who had joined the sect less than a year ago. Although his cultivation was still shallow, his aura was not weak. Since Ying Moran claims that he did not kill senior brother Zhao Shi, then let us search his storage bag to prove his innocence. Ying Moran crossed his arms and sneered, to search my storage bag for no reason, are you bullying the Shadow Death sect for having no one? The surrounding Corpse Demon sect disciples clamored, search, search, search. This was the Corpse Demon sect's territory, and they would naturally not allow outsiders to be arrogant. Chu Hen frowned slightly, his intention was to put pressure on them, but he didn't expect things to escalate to this point. Unexpectedly, the Shadow Death sect leader actually said, all right, Moran, let them search. Ying Moran was unwilling when he heard this, but he couldn't refuse, so he had to release the restriction on the storage bag and hand it to Ma Yu. Ma Yu poured out all the items in the storage bag, tens of thousands of Zon crystals and various Zon treasures scattered on the ground. He began to search carefully. Suddenly, a ghostly white long sword caught his attention. This is Senior Brother Zhao's white feather sword. An old true disciple of the Corpse Demon sect exclaimed. That's right, it's the white feather sword. I once fought with Senior Brother Zhao, and he used this sword. Another true disciple also recognized it. Ying Moran's face changed drastically when he saw the sword. I bought this sword at the sect's market a few days ago, how could it be Zhao Shi's Zon treasure? The Shadow Death sect leader frowned, his eyes full of doubt. Crimson Corpse snorted coldly, his tone sinister, the evidence is conclusive, what else do you have to say? At this moment, Yuan of the Ghost Fiend sect, who had not spoken, slowly said, there may be another hidden story. Although this Zon treasure is in his storage bag, it may not have been done by him personally, perhaps someone framed him. Everyone looked at Yuan upon hearing this. Yuan continued, now that the righteous path is watching covetously, we of the demonic path should not kill each other and increase internal friction. Chu Hen nodded slightly, expressing his agreement. Crimson Corpse pondered for a moment, then said coldly, if that's the case, then there is no need to mention the spot again. However, my sect will definitely investigate this matter thoroughly. Chu Hen's face darkened, and he snorted coldly, all right, Crimson Corpse, it seems you are determined not to budge. Let's go. With that, he turned and boarded the flying ship, and the people from the Shadow Death sect and the Ghost Fiend sect followed closely behind and left. Dot 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 dot. Dot 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 dot. Dot 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 dot. Weird blessed land. That old fox, Crimson Corpse, is really not easy to deal with. Even with evidence like Ying Moran in front of him, he can hold back from taking action. He's really patient. Lu Yuan sneered, a hint of gloom flashed in his eyes, however, this is just the beginning. I still have a backup plan, let's see how long you can last. Then he descended his consciousness onto the clone again, collecting the latest information. Chen Yang has arrived at the outer market of the Shadow Death sect. Seer Lu has left the corpse refining platform, his cultivation has broken through to the late stage of the Bu Gong realm, and he has been included in the Bu Gong realm training ground adjustment. Seeing this information, a hint of satisfaction flashed in Lu Yuan's eyes. With a thought, his consciousness instantly descended on Chen Yang. However, what came into view was an extremely erotic scene. Chen Yang was dual cultivating with a demonic path female cultivator, their auras intertwined, Zon power flowing, obviously at a critical moment. Lu Yuan frowned slightly, but did not interrupt, just observing quietly. Along the way, Chen Yang, with his Yao Yi methods and ruthless nature, had been constantly hunting demonic path female cultivators. Not only his cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds, but also the name of Yao Nu Killer resounded throughout the demonic path. Now, he had stepped into the 9th supplement of the Bu Gong realm. His strength was so strong that even Lu Yuan was surprised. 9th supplement of the Bu Gong. With this kind of strength, after using the blood fusion technique, I'm afraid even that old guy Crimson Corpse may not be able to suppress him steadily. Lu Yuan thought to himself, a hint of complexity flashing in his eyes. A moment later, Chen Yang and the female cultivator's dual cultivation ended. The female cultivator slumped to the ground, her aura weak, obviously her Zon power had been drained. Chen Yang was radiant, his body surging with Zon power, vaguely showing signs of breakthrough. Chapter 93, God-Killing Sword. The outer market of the Shadow Death sect was shrouded in ink-like darkness, so thick it seemed to be congealing. A group of young cultivators clad in black robes were meticulously searching the desolate corners of the market, their expressions grave. At their head was none other than Ying Moran. This time, he was determined to find the stall owner who had sold him the Zon treasure. But now, the stall was long deserted. Ying Moran pondered inwardly, finding the matter truly bizarre. A few days prior, he had rarely ventured out of his training grounds, intending to purchase some healing medicines. As he walked through a section of the market, he happened to notice someone selling magical artifacts. The buyer was clearly an amateur, mistaking a second-grade, high-quality artifact for a second-grade, low-quality one, and trading it at that price. Ying Moran's heart stirred, he thought he had stumbled upon a great bargain and bought it. But who would have thought that this apparent opportunity was actually a trap? However, lost in thought, Ying Moran didn't notice a black shadow, like a ghost, silently tailing his group. Puff! In an instant, several strands of cold, gleaming sword silk shot through the air, slicing through the darkness like lightning. Blood splattered, and Ying Moran's eyes widened, filled with shock and disbelief. He never dreamed that someone would dare to openly ambush him in the outer market of the Shadow Death sect. Everything happened too suddenly, he didn't even have time to cry out before collapsing into a pool of blood. Chen Yang's lips curled into a cold smile, his eyes revealing a hint of disdain. He glanced at the scattered corpses on the ground, sparing no further look at their storage pouches, and with a flash, disappeared into the vast night, leaving only the empty darkness behind. Audacious madman, how dare you kill my sect's disciples? Just as Chen Yang departed, an angry roar tore through the night sky. The sect leader of the Shadow Death sect appeared like a bolt of lightning, his face grim, radiating a chilling pressure. By this time, Ying Moran and his disciples had already been reduced to mangled flesh, a gruesome sight. Chen Yang had relied on his sword intent to kill these disciples without using the extinction sword technique, so even for someone as powerful as the Shadow Death sect leader, determining the exact method of their deaths would be no easy task. However, the faint trace of bloody mist in the air caught the Shadow Death sect leader's attention. He narrowed his eyes slightly, and after a careful examination, his face instantly turned ashen. The Corpse Demon sect. So, it's the Corpse Demon sect, daring to run rampant in my Shadow Death sect's territory, audacious and reckless. Comma comma. Comma comma. Comma comma. Open black lens bracket extracted 1 point of fate value from a profound gathering realm Zon cultivator close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket extracted 1 point of fate value from a profound gathering realm Zon cultivator close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket extracted 10 points of fate value from a palace completion realm Zon cultivator close black lens bracket. Within the anomalous blessed land, Lu Yuanpan's eyes were slightly closed, his divine sense spreading out like spider silk, as if connecting with the anomalous blessed land. Recently, the demonic path had been turbulent and unpredictable, with each event being extraordinary. Of course, all of this stemmed from his machinations. A day later, the Shadow Death sect leader led a group of fierce and menacing experts, aggressively charging towards the Corpse Demon sect's mountain gate. As soon as the two sides met, the atmosphere instantly became tense. The Shadow Death sect leader accused the Corpse Demon sect of being responsible for Ying Moran's death, his words filled with certainty and resentment. Crimson Corpse, with a stern face, insisted that someone must be secretly plotting and sowing discord, and that the Corpse Demon sect was absolutely innocent. Both sides held their ground, the atmosphere thick with tension, and a great battle seemed imminent. However, Chu Hen, the top disciple of the Heavenly Demon sect, arrived in time and, through his vigorous mediation, eased the tense atmosphere somewhat. He still wanted Crimson Corpse to give up the Holy Land quota, but how could Crimson Corpse agree? The next day, all the hostages sent by the Corpse Demon sect to the Shadow Death sect were found dead. The Shadow Death sect adamantly denied any involvement, putting on an air of righteousness. However, when the Corpse Demon sect received those cold corpses, Crimson Corpse was even more enraged, his eyes surging with murderous intent. Soon, the two sects rapidly assembled a large number of Zon cultivation experts in the border area, and a brutal internal war of the demonic path was once again unfolding. Haha, a large amount of fate value is coming back again. Lu Yuan suddenly opened his eyes, a sharp light bursting forth, and looking at the continuous stream of fate value gathering, he couldn't help but laugh out loud, his laughter filled with ecstasy and triumph. All his painstaking planning was naturally to obtain more fate value, and also to secure a wider space for the survival of the Extinction Sword sect in this dog-eat-dog world of the demonic path. He planned to establish a force within the demonic path. I have to say, when these demonic paths fight each other, the ruthlessness of their methods far exceeds the clashes of the righteous path. It seems this plan has been quite effective. Lu Yuan nodded slightly, a satisfied smile appearing on his face as he pondered inwardly. Thanks to the large amount of information sharing, Lu Yuan's avatar could promptly discern the battlefield situation, and in this smoke-filled battlefield, his chances of survival were undoubtedly much greater than those of other Zon cultivators. This was also the valuable experience that Lu Yuan had gleaned from these recent brutal wars. It's time to arrange for Chen Yang to return to the Corpse Demon sect. Lu Yuan's gaze slightly darkened, and he already had new plans in mind. As soon as the thought arose, Chen Yang, who was standing beside him, trembled slightly and disappeared. A hidden corner of Corpse Severance Peak, Chen Yang's cold gaze swept around, as if to take in every detail of this gloomy peak. He still carried a faint trace of bloodlust, the mark of a recent return from a slaughter. Although the Corpse Demon sect was heavily guarded, to Chen Yang, it was as familiar as his own backyard. After all, he had already planted countless hidden agents within the Corpse Demon sect, and every step was under his control. Senior brother Chen, you're back. Broken Sword appeared silently behind him, saying in a low voice, with a hint of awe in his tone. Chen Yang nodded slightly, his tone indifferent. How did things go? Broken Sword replied respectfully, everything went smoothly. There are quite a few disciples who have secretly pledged allegiance to our Extinction Sword sect. Chen Yang sneered, a sinister glint flashing in his eyes. Good, has Senior Divine Wanderer returned to normal? Senior Divine Wanderer was naturally the old man in the prison, his existence was crucial to Chen Yang. Broken Sword shook his head. Sometimes he is in a divine wander, sometimes he is awake. Take me to see him. Chen Yang's voice was unquestionable. Yes. Broken Sword responded, then led the way. Arriving at the prison, Chen Yang pushed open the heavy iron door. Inside was dark and damp, the air filled with a rotting stench. Deep in the prison cell, the old man Divine Wanderer was huddled in a corner, as if merging with the darkness. Boy, you're here again. The old man Divine Wanderer raised his cloudy eyes to look at Chen Yang, his voice hoarse and low. Senior, I have come today hoping that you can impart to me the divine power of the Extinction Sword. Chen Yang cut straight to the chase, his tone tinged with urgency. The old man Divine Wanderer chuckled twice, a glint of cunning flashing in his eyes. You have established the Extinction Sword sect. That's right, and I would also like to invite Senior to be the supreme elder of the Extinction Sword sect. Chen Yang made no secret of his ambition. The old man Divine Wanderer was silent for a moment, then suddenly raised his hand and pointed, a Zon light sinking into Chen Yang's brow. This is the affection severing, Extinction God Sword divine power. After cultivating it, you can sever all emotional bonds and greatly increase your strength. However, those who cultivate this divine power must be ruthless, do you understand? A fanatical glint flashed in Chen Yang's eyes, as if he had already seen the moment when he would stand at the pinnacle. This junior naturally understands, on the demonic path, everything is for my use only. Divine Wanderer Sanren nodded approvingly, a hint of approval in his cloudy eyes. Since you want to establish the Extinction Sword sect, then I will talk to old Taoist Qing Shi. After saying that, the figure of the old man divine wanderer disappeared like smoke in the prison. Chapter 94, Successful Planning. The border area between the corpse demon sect and the shadow death cult had long been reduced to a killing field. Disciples from both factions slaughtered each other here, blood soaked the earth, corpses piled up like mountains, and the air was filled with a thick, bloody stench, as if even the wind carried a bone-chilling cold. Ma Yu led an elite squad, like an unsheathed sharp sword, directly into the heart of the shadow death cult. His figure stood out on the battlefield, his black robe fluttering, his sword light like frost, each step carrying a fierce killing intent. Kill! Ma Yu shouted coldly, the long sword in his hand suddenly swung out, the sword light like a rainbow, instantly cutting several shadow death cult disciples in two. His swordsmanship was extremely fierce, each sword carrying a grim aura of death, as if it could devour all vitality, making people shudder. The shadow death cult disciples, seeing this, retreated one after another, their faces showing fear. Although they were also members of the demonic path, they couldn't help but feel a trace of fear in the face of Ma Yu's ruthless methods. However, at this moment, a black shadow descended from the sky, landing steadily in front of Ma Yu. It was an old man in a gray robe, with a withered face, but his eyes flashed with a sinister light, like a venomous snake eyeing its prey. Boy, your swordsmanship is not bad, but unfortunately you are destined to die here today. The gray-robed old man sneered, his voice hoarse and piercing. He waved the crutch in his hand, and countless black energy surged out from the tip of the staff, turning into ferocious venomous snakes, baring their fangs and claws as they pounced towards Ma Yu. Those venomous snakes were lifelike, spewing a foul-smelling black mist from their mouths, obviously containing highly toxic poison. Ma Yu's expression remained unchanged, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. He waved the long sword in his hand, the sword light like a waterfall, instantly cutting down those black energy venomous snakes. Wherever the sword blade passed, the black energy dissipated, and the venomous snakes turned into nothingness. Old thing, you think you can kill me with just that? Ma Yu said coldly, his tone filled with undisguised contempt. The gray-robed old man's eyes flared with anger, and he slammed his crutch into the ground, and countless black runes surged from the ground, quickly spreading out, turning into a huge array, trapping Ma Yu within it. Black energy surged in the array, and faint, shrill wails could be heard, as if countless wronged souls were struggling within it. Boy, taste my myriad poison soul-devouring array. The gray-robed old man grinned hideously, his voice filled with triumph and cruelty. Ma Yu didn't panic, but instead revealed a sneer, a mere array, you think you can trap me? Before the words fell, the long sword in his hand suddenly erupted with a dazzling sword light, and a faint aura of destruction flowed on the sword's edge. He slashed out with his sword, the sword light like a dragon, instantly tearing apart the black runes in the array. The array collapsed, black energy scattered, the gray-robed old man's face changed drastically. Before he could react, Ma Yu had already stepped out, his long sword pointing directly at his throat. You, the gray-robed old man just uttered a word, and the sword light had already pierced through his throat. His body stiffened for a moment, then fell down weakly, his eyes still filled with disbelief. Senior brother Ma is mighty. The corpse demon sect disciples cheered, their morale greatly boosted. However, Ma Yu did not relax his vigilance. He looked up into the distance, only to see countless black shadows lie from the direction of the shadow death cult. Obviously the other party did not retreat due to the death of an elder. Among those black shadows, there were faintly several powerful auras. Obviously the shadow death cult still had a backup plan. Continue forward, kill them all. Ma Yu ordered coldly, his voice filled with unquestionable authority. He led his disciples to continue advancing, each step carrying a fierce killing intent. This Ma Yu, in fact, was also one of Lu Yuan's clones. Having copied the unity of man and swords extinguishing righteousness swordsmanship, he was one of the clones carefully crafted by Lu Yuan. Shadow Death Cult, Corpse Demon Sect, this civil war has given me quite a few opportunities. The corners of Ma Yu's mouth curled up in a cold smile. His goal was not only the victory or defeat of this war, but the entire landscape of the demonic path. The slaughter on the battlefield continued. Ma Yu's figure stood out in the crowd. His swordsmanship was incomparably fierce, each sword carrying an aura of destruction, as if it could cut off all obstacles. The Shadow Death Cult disciples were like grass in front of him, falling one after another. Kama Kama, Kama Kama, Kama Kama, Star Sword Sect, Main Hall. Wei Wuya sat upright in the seat of honor, his expression solemn, his gaze sweeping over the many hall masters and elders in the hall. The atmosphere was solemn, everyone held their breath and focused, waiting for the sect leader to speak. The demonic path's civil war, with countless casualties in the shadow death cult and the corpse demon sect, this matter is probably related to the heavenly demon sect. Wei Wuya spoke slowly, his voice low, with a hint of hidden worry. Hall Master Shen nodded in agreement. That's right, the heavenly demon sect has always been ambitious. This time, they probably want to take the opportunity to weaken the strength of the corpse demon sect and the shadow death cult, so that they can unify the demonic path in the future. Wei Wuya nodded slightly, and said in a deep voice, this matter needs to be notified to other righteous path sects as soon as possible, so that they can prepare early. I have already sent someone to Yahua Valley to discuss countermeasures with the Valley Master of Yahua Valley. Okay. Hall Master Shen responded, then frowned and said, however, the demonic path broke out in infighting as soon as the people from the heavenly Feather Dao Palace left. Is this matter a bit strange? Could it be a trap deliberately set by the demonic path to lure our righteous path in? Wei Wuya pondered for a moment, then shook his head and said, this matter is still unknown, but in any case, we need to act cautiously and not be careless. Everyone in the hall nodded. Some suggested strengthening border defenses, while others believed that they should take the initiative to attack and weaken the demonic path's power while it was in turmoil. At this moment, Wei Wuya suddenly changed the subject and asked, by the way, how is the matter of the Yongzhong grass going? An elder immediately stood up and replied, reporting to the sect leader, the first batch of Yongzhong grass has been delivered, and the second batch is expected to arrive in 5 days. The Horizon Commerce League is extremely efficient in its work and has not been delayed. Wei Wuya frowned slightly when he heard this, and nodded. This Horizon Commerce League is indeed quite reliable in its work. However, another elder frowned and said, Sect leader, although that's the case, we have to guard against this Horizon Commerce League, which has a mysterious origin. We have never heard of this Commerce League before, but now it suddenly appears, and it acts so efficiently. There may be other hidden secrets behind it. Wei Wuya nodded slightly, his expression solemn. Indeed, this matter needs to be treated with caution. Although the Horizon Commerce League has temporarily provided convenience for us, its background is unknown and we must guard against it. When everyone in the hall heard this, they all showed thoughtful expressions. Wei Wuya pondered for a moment, and finally made a decision. For the time being, we will receive the second batch of Yongzhong grass according to the original plan. And at the same time, we will send more people to secretly investigate the background of the Horizon Commerce League. We must find out their origins and not be careless. Everyone responded in unison, and the atmosphere in the hall became solemn again. Comma comma, comma comma, comma comma. At the same time, Nanline Market. Inside the reception hall of the main store of the Horizon Commerce League, the decoration was magnificent and grand, with carved beams and painted rafters, showing the Commerce League's wealth and heritage everywhere. Yuan sat upright in the main seat, his expression calm and composed, with a smile on his face. Sitting opposite him was a young cultivator wearing Star Sword sect attire. It was Sun Wan, a true disciple of the Star Sword sect. Fellow Taoist Lu, this demonic path civil war may affect the supply of Yongzhong grass, you need to prepare early. Sun Wan's tone carried a hint of probing, his eyes fixed on Yuan. Yuan smiled slightly, his expression natural. Senior brother Sun, don't worry, the Horizon Commerce League has already made preparations. The supply of Yongzhong grass will not be interrupted, and I have also brought a batch of rare spiritual medicines for the Star Sword sect to use. A trace of appreciation flashed in Sun Wan's eyes, and he nodded. Fellow Taoist Lu is indeed stable in his work, the Star Sword sect will remember this favor. Yuan cupped his hands in salute, his tone humble. Senior brother Sun is being polite. The Horizon Commerce League has always had a pleasant cooperation with the Star Sword sect, this is just a small effort. It must be said that being blessed with luck is indeed extraordinary. After his arrival, the Horizon Commerce League's turnover doubled, earning 2,000 Zon crystals a day, and has become one of the most influential commerce leagues in Nanline Market. Now, the Commerce League is even preparing to open a branch store in the market in the Yahua Valley area, further expanding its sphere of influence. After Sun Wan left, Yuan sat alone in the reception hall, his eyes deep, the corners of his mouth curled up in a faint smile. He got up and walked to the window, looking at the prosperous market in the distance. He knew in his heart that this was all the plan of the main body, and this was just the beginning of the rise of the Horizon Commerce League, which would gradually become a major force in the righteous path. Chapter 95, Battle of Bashan. The forbidden area behind the corpse demon sect was shrouded in a thick layer of dark clouds all year round, as if even the sunlight could not penetrate this desolate place. Deep within the forbidden area, an ancient stone hall stood on the edge of a cliff, its exterior covered with dense runes, emitting a chilling coldness. Inside the stone hall, the old man Shenyu was sitting cross-legged on a stone chair, holding a simple jade slip in his hand, his eyes deep and distant. Opposite him sat an old man in a gray robe, who was none other than the supreme elder of the corpse demon sect, Qingshi Laodao. Qingshi Laodao's face was withered, and his eyes showed a hint of fatigue, obviously his lifespan was nearing its end. He slowly opened his mouth, his voice hoarse and low. Fellow Taoist Shenyu, the seal of thousands of years is about to expire, you are finally going to see the light of day again. The old man Shenyu smiled slightly, with a hint of sarcasm in his tone. Qingshi Laodao, your corpse demon sect tried so hard to seal me back then, but now you have to let me out, don't you find it very ironic? Qingshi Laodao gave a wry smile and shook his head. It's fate, the past is already in the past, now my corpse demon sect is no longer able to contend with you. I only hope that after you establish the extinguished sword sect, you will not exterminate my corpse demon sect. Hearing this, a flash of coldness flashed in the old man Shenyu's eyes, and he said lightly, don't worry, as long as the corpse demon sect does not hinder the re-establishment of the extinguished sword sect, I will leave you a way out. Qingshi Laodao breathed a sigh of relief and nodded. That's good, my corpse demon sect is now facing internal and external troubles, and is no longer able to compete with you. I only hope you can keep your promise. The old man Shenyu snorted coldly and said nothing more. He stood up, his eyes looking through the cracks in the stone hall, looking at the distant sky, as if he was thinking about something. Comma comma, comma comma, comma comma. In the border area between the corpse demon sect and the shadow death sect, the yin wind howled, and a sense of desolation permeated the world. In the center of the battlefield, corpse poison and dark shadows intertwined, and when the battle reached its fiercest point, the world seemed to change color. Dark clouds pressed down, and thunder rumbled faintly, as if even the heavens were trembling for this slaughter. However, as the orders from the high-level officials of both sides came, the flames of war gradually subsided. The disciples of the two factions retreated, leaving behind a devastated battlefield. The earth was stained red with blood, corpses piled up like mountains, and the air was filled with a strong smell of blood, making people suffocate. Ma Yu stood on a high ground, his eyes coldly watching the gradually dissipating smoke of gunpowder, his brows slightly furrowed. His black robe was covered with blood stains, and the long sword in his hand still emitted a sharp cold light, as if he had just returned from the slaughter. Senior brother Ma, news has come from the sect, ordering us to return to the sect immediately. A disciple walked quickly and reported in a low voice, with a hint of urgency in his tone. Ma Yu nodded, but he felt a faint unease in his heart. He always felt that the end of this civil war was too sudden, as if an invisible hand was manipulating everything behind the scenes. Especially when he thought that the life he had earned in this battle was only more than 10,000, far lower than expected, it made him even more suspicious. Pass down the order, all members retreat. Ma Yu ordered coldly. The corpse demon sect disciples on the battlefield quickly assembled. In the distance, the shadow death sect's followers also quietly retreated, their figures gradually disappearing into the shadows. Could it be that the supreme elders of both sides have come forward? Lu Yuan, whose consciousness had descended on Ma Yu, murmured in a low voice. Information came from his mind. Supplementing Palace Realm Cultivation Point +1. Benefactor breaks through supplementing Palace 3 supplements. Comma comma. Comma comma. Comma comma. Weird blessed land. Lu Yuan was collecting information, studying why the war between the corpse demon sect and the shadow death sect ended so hastily. Suddenly, his aura became stronger and was undergoing some kind of mysterious transformation. Supplementing Palace 3 supplements finally reached the most critical step. Lu Yuan murmured in a low voice. He slowly raised his hands, his palms facing each other, and the spiritual power in his body surged like a tide, flowing through his meridians, and finally converging in his dantian. Inside the dantian, a illusory palace gradually solidified, emitting a dazzling light. The profound energy in his body suddenly burst out, turning into countless thin threads, firmly wrapping the illusory palace. A golden light suddenly lit up at the center of his brow, turning into a wisp of divine consciousness, and merging into the palace. It was like repairing the leaking parts of the palace. After a while, Lu Yuan's aura stabilized and reached supplementing Palace 3 supplements. The information on the iris also changed. Lord of the Weird Blessed Land, Lu Yuan. Lifespan, 17,276. Talent, none can consume lifespan and share with avatars. Realm, supplementing Palace 3 supplements 1/400th can absorb avatar cultivation to improve. Root bone, inferior grade, can consume lifespan to obtain from avatars. Cultivation technique, proficient, body forging art, proficient, blood demon mysterious art, can consume lifespan to obtain from avatars. Spell, great accomplishment, star slaying sword, beginner, soul shaping chapter, beginner, hidden realm technique, beginner, 9 wheels refining yang technique, can consume lifespan and share with avatars. Divine power, none, can consume lifespan and share with avatars. Gathering profound realm avatars, 1986. Supplementing palace initial stage avatars, 62. Supplementing palace middle stage avatars, Lui 4 supplements 522 4800s, Luer 4 supplements 528 4800s, Shui 6 supplements 522 4800s, Shuier 6 supplements 828 4800s. Supplementing palace late stage avatars, Seer Lu 9 supplements 225,600s, Chen Yang 9 supplements 2214 25,600s. Lifespan, 15,736 points. It's been so long, Chen Yang hasn't discovered the hidden dangers of the supplementing palace realm demonic path cultivation technique. I can try to improve it faster. Lu Yuan has always been very afraid of the hidden dangers of the demonic path cultivation technique. After all, even if the avatar dies or the split soul is destroyed, it can be refined, but if something happens to the main body, it will be too difficult to recover. A piece of information from Chen Yang made Lu Yuan's eyes light up. The old man Shenyu is back. I can try to test him and see why the war ended early. In the corpse demon sect's prison. Chen Yang had been waiting for a long time, and when he saw the old man Shenyu appear, he pretended to ask, "Senior, why did the war between the Shadow Death sect and the corpse demon sect end?" "Haha, is this war you're doing, kid? For the establishment of the extinguished sword sect." Unexpectedly, the old man Shenyu seemed to know a lot about the war. Chen Yang no longer pretended and smiled. "Nothing can be hidden from Senior. That's for sure. I have cultivated a divine power that can see through all directions. As for the war between the demonic path sects, it was naturally stopped by the supreme elders of both sides. Everyone could see that someone was meddling in the middle." Shenyu Laodao explained. "It's a pity. In this way, the establishment of my extinguished sword sect will be very difficult again. It's okay, the supreme elder of the corpse demon sect, Qing Shi, has been persuaded by me and will no longer hinder the establishment of my extinguished sword sect." "Senior, then how should we act next?" Chen Yang asked respectfully. The old man Shenyu smiled slightly, a glint of light flashing in his eyes. "Since the corpse demon sect has retreated, then we don't need to entangle with them anymore. Next, you need to establish a mountain visiting battle to challenge the corpse demon sect's leader and establish your prestige." Hearing this, a flash of fighting spirit flashed in Chen Yang's eyes, and he nodded. "But is it too dangerous to do so? You have supplementing palace 9 supplements, plus the extinguished sword intent. That red corpse is only at the peak of the Ningji initial stage, he can't kill you." The old man Shenyu shook his head and smiled. "You are too cautious, a little unlike a sword cultivator. This disciple will do his best to promote the prestige of my extinguished sword sect." Hearing these words, Chen Yang cupped his hands in salute. In fact, Chen Yang certainly wouldn't completely trust the mountain visiting battle that the old man Shenyu mentioned, and Lu Yuan had already begun to send secret agents to investigate. Chapter 96, Destroying the Sword Sect's Headmaster. Corpse Demon Sect, True Disciples' Cave Abode. All day long, dark clouds like ink, obscuring the sky and sun, a hazy wilderness devoid of sunlight. Rumors about the mountain visiting battle had already spread like wildfire among the disciples, especially those who had joined the extinguished sword sect, becoming the focus of everyone's discussion. Ma Yu, whose body Lu Yuan's consciousness had descended upon, had just finished cultivating and slowly opened his eyes. This clone of his held the position of a true disciple, a core disciple of the Corpse Lord Hall, wielding considerable power. At this moment, he was preparing to go out and gather some information. As soon as he left the cave abode, Ma Yu's lackey, an inner disciple clad in black robes with a withered face, was already waiting respectfully outside. "Senior brother, the matter you asked me to investigate, I have already investigated thoroughly." The disciple approached him obsequiously and said in a low voice, "There are quite a few disciples who seem to have secretly joined other sects, called the Extinguished Sword Sect. Moreover, this sect seems to have existed for some time. The cultivator who recently spread the word about initiating a mountain visiting battle with the sect leader seems to be from this sect." "Oh, What movements has our sect made? Why would it tolerate our sect's disciples joining the extinguished sword sect? Ma Yu frowned slightly upon hearing this and said faintly. The disciple quickly replied, I also felt that this matter was not right, so I went to check the sect scrolls. As a result, I discovered that this extinguished sword sect was actually a demonic Tao sect that the previous sect leader joined hands with the Shadow Death sect to destroy 1,000 years ago. I didn't expect it to revive from the ashes now. Go and investigate, who all have joined this extinguished sword sect. Senior brother, this is not easy to do. The sect seems to have always known about the existence of the extinguished sword sect but has never investigated it. Moreover, the sect seems to be deliberately preventing investigation. The disciple looked embarrassed and lowered his voice. Indeed, perhaps affected by the war, but the extinguished sword sect has been established for some time. This definitely couldn't escape the eyes of the supreme elders and the sect leader. Ma Yu paused and said with a hint of profound meaning, it seems there is only one possibility, that is, the supreme elders and the sect leader have tacitly approved of this matter, the reasons for which are unknown. The disciple's face changed upon hearing this, and he hurriedly advised, Senior brother, be careful with your words. This matter concerns the supreme elders and the sect leader, you can't speak carelessly. Ma Yu snorted coldly and waved his hand, what you said is true. Continue to investigate, be careful. Yes, senior brother. The disciple responded respectfully and then left in a hurry. After the disciple left, Ma Yu went to the sect affairs hall again. Inside the sect affairs hall, yin energy was dense, and the surrounding walls were covered with various task scrolls. Ma Yu's main responsibility was to assign tasks to the disciples. He walked to the table and casually flipped through a few task scrolls, but his brows furrowed even tighter. As expected, there are no tasks related to targeting the extinguished sword sect. Ma Yu muttered to himself, his doubts deepening. He put down the scrolls, his eyes deep, and thought to himself, old man Shenyu is indeed not simple. But even so, I still can't be sure if he has malicious intentions towards Chen Yang. Perhaps the establishment of the extinguished sword sect requires manpower, and Chen Yang just happened to catch his eye. However, Chen Yang is someone I have spent a lot of effort on, I must not let him be easily lost, I still have to be careful. Lu Yuan muttered in his heart, a trace of vigilance flashing in his eyes. Having mixed in the demonic Tao for many years, he knew that there was no such thing as unprovoked kindness in this world. Why didn't the supreme elders and the sect leader of the corpse demon sect deal a fatal blow to the extinguished sword sect? From what he learned from Chen Yang, it seemed to be the protection of old man Shenyu. However, even so, Lu Yuan still couldn't completely determine the truth behind this. However, from the current situation, it is indeed so. Ma Yu murmured in a low voice, feeling a faint unease in his heart. Just then, his consciousness suddenly shook, and a message from Chen Yang entered his mind, Chen Yang has broken through. A gleam of light flashed in Ma Yu's eyes, and the corner of his mouth curled into a slight smile, broke through. It's a bit faster than expected. It seems that the plan can be taken a step further. He put away his thoughts, his eyes swept over the task scrolls hanging in the sect affairs hall again, and he secretly calculated in his heart. Extinguished sword sect, old man Shenyu, corpse demon sect supreme elders, this game of chess is getting more and more interesting. Comma comma, comma comma, comma comma. In a brothel of the Shadow Death sect, the lights were dim, and the fragrance of powder filled the air. Bewitching women, dressed in thin veils, cast seductive glances as they moved through the hall. However, in one room, the faces of several demonic Tao enchantresses were filled with horror, and they fled from Chen Yang's side. Chen Yang looked at the enchantresses who fled in panic and shook his head helplessly. He had just broken through to the completion of the supplement palace realm, and his aura had not yet been fully contained. The unintentional leakage of pressure was indeed easy to scare these women with low cultivation. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly felt a faint sense of being kui shi, as if a pair of eyes were staring at him in the dark. Chen Yang's eyes sharpened, and he pretended to casually scan his surroundings, but found nothing unusual. The supplement palace realm of the Shadow Death sect is quite clever, not coming over. He sneered in his heart, his figure swayed, and he instantly disappeared in place, returning to the weird blessed land. At this moment, the blessed land was filled with blood mist, and 3 blood demon Tao soldiers were bathing in essence blood, their aura tyrannical, and they had already reached the mid-stage of the condensation realm. Blood fusion technique, Chen Yang shouted in a low voice. The 3 clones instantly turned into blood mist and merged into his body. In an instant, Chen Yang's aura soared again, and he suddenly threw a punch. The air was compressed to the extreme, making a deafening roar. This feeling has reached the peak of the initial stage of the condensation realm. Chen Yang felt the surging power in his body, and a hint of excitement appeared in his eyes. Lu Yuan's consciousness observed quietly from the side and nodded slightly. In this way, defeating Red Corpse is not impossible. Lu Yuan had already planned for the upcoming mountain visiting battle. There were too many benefits to establishing a sect in the Western Wastelands, let alone a demonic Tao sect. Although Old Man Shenyu taught the extinguish affection righteousness divine power, it was still unknown whether it could truly solve the hidden dangers of the demonic Tao cultivation technique. Everything is just going with the flow. Lu Yuan thought to himself, Chen Yang, as a clone, is now strong enough, and after using the extinguished sword intent, he has plenty of time to return to the weird blessed land, avoiding too much danger. Standing in the open has too many benefits. Thinking of this, a trace of determination flashed in Lu Yuan's eyes. Let Chen Yang go to the mountain visiting battle then. Actually, whether or not to go was not up to Old Man Shenyu. But Lu Yuan, this mountain visiting battle was just a bit unexpected for him. After multiple investigations and weighing the pros and cons, he felt that he could still go. After all, there were too many benefits, and he would be the sect leader of the Extinguished Sword sect in the future. A few days later, in a dilapidated sect in the southwestern region of the Western Wastelands, broken walls, ruins, and weeds grew everywhere. Two figures appeared in this barren land. It was Chen Yang and Old Man Shenyu. Only now did Chen Yang realize that this Old Man Shenyu was actually willing to be imprisoned in that prison. You should know that with his ability, it would be easy to leave that place. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 97 The Strength of the Wandering Old Man. Senior, what exactly is your intention in bringing me here? Chen Yang surveyed his surroundings, his brow furrowed, and couldn't help but ask. The old Shenyu man's eyes were profound as he slowly said, Young man, this place is the former site of the Extinction Sword sect. Back then, the Extinction Sword sect was at its peak, its might shaking the entire Western Wasteland. Really that powerful? Chen Yang asked with some skepticism. Chen Yang knew very little about the old Shenyu man before him, and couldn't even see through his cultivation. However, from their few interactions, although this old man was mysterious, he had not shown any malice. On the contrary, he had offered advice and strategies many times, and even imparted supernatural powers. For the time being, he seemed harmless. Humph. The old Shenyu man lightly snorted, his tone carrying a hint of arrogance. Every disciple of the Extinction Sword sect possessed extraordinary swordsmanship. Its sect leader even possessed peerless sword techniques. With a single sword strike, he could split mountains and cleave seas. Back then, the righteous Star Sword Gate intended to unify the Western Wasteland, and it was all thanks to the Extinction Sword sect's efforts to turn the tide that the demonic cultivators were able to survive. Then why did it become like this later? Chen Yang surveyed the surrounding ruins, his heart filled with even greater doubts. The old Shenyu man sighed, his tone carrying a hint of helplessness. The demonic path is just like that. Although the Extinction Sword sect blocked the Star Sword Gate, it couldn't defend against the Corpse Demon sect and the Shadow Death sect, who were also of the demonic path. Senior, are you the previous generation sect leader of the Extinction Sword sect? Chen Yang asked tentatively. The old Shenyu man laughed upon hearing this. You little brat are quite clever. However, do you think I am? Chen Yang shook his head. I don't know. Senior hasn't cultivated the sword style of extinguishing emotions and severing righteousness. On the contrary, you reveal a trace of human sentiment, so I can't be sure. The old Shenyu man nodded in satisfaction and smiled. Good eye. Although I am not the sect leader of the Extinction Sword sect, I was once deeply favored by the Extinction Sword sect. Chen Yang muttered to himself, always feeling that this old man's background was not simple, and he was definitely not an ordinary rogue cultivator. I see. Then is the reason Senior brought me here today to rebuild the Extinction Sword sect? Chen Yang asked. That's right, young man. The old Shenyu man's eyes were bright. From now on, you will be the new sect leader of the Extinction Sword sect, and you must restore the former glory of the Extinction Sword sect. Chen Yang pondered for a moment, then nodded and said, all right then, Senior, I am willing to give it a try. The old Shenyu man nodded in satisfaction, and the two continued walking through the ruins. The biting sword energy rushed towards them, as if telling of the past glory. Senior, if we want to rebuild the sect, how should we gather those disciples who are still in the Corpse Demon sect? Chen Yang asked. After all, those disciples were still disciples of the Corpse Demon sect in name. When the day of the mountain worship war arrives, we can naturally take those disciples away. The old Shenyu man said indifferently. I see. Chen Yang nodded. Just as the two were talking happily, a flying ship suddenly flew in from the sky. Not good. Chen Yang's expression changed, recognizing the origin of this flying ship. It was the flying ship of Chu Hen, the #1 true disciple of the heavenly demon sect. Sure enough, Chu Hen's voice came from the sky. Senior Shenyu, have you been well? A figure stood above the flying ship, looking down at them condescendingly. Chu Hen cupped his fist in salute, but his tone carried a hint of arrogance. The old Shenyu man frowned slightly. Who are you? Chu Hen landed on the ground, walked slowly, and smiled. I am Chu Hen of the heavenly demon sect. I heard that the Extinction Sword sect is about to be rebuilt, so I came here to inform you that my heavenly demon sect is also willing to support this decision. The old Shenyu man coldly snorted. How could the heavenly demon sect support the rebuilding of the Extinction Sword sect for no reason? I'm afraid you have ulterior motives. Chu Hen's expression changed slightly, but he quickly returned to normal and smiled. Senior is overthinking things. Now that the demonic path in the Western Wasteland is weak, if the Extinction Sword sect can restore its glory, it would also be a good thing for the overall demonic path. Chen Yang glanced at Chu Hen. The heavenly demon sect was so kind, probably wanting to sit back and watch the tiger fight. Haha, good, since that's the case, then I will thank the heavenly demon sect on behalf of the Extinction Sword sect. The old Shenyu man didn't seem to care about Chu Hen. Chen Yang, why are you here? Chu Hen turned his gaze to Chen Yang, asking meaningfully, obviously knowing what Chen Yang had done in the past. However, before Chen Yang could speak, the old Shenyu man said, he is the new sect leader of my Extinction Sword sect. As soon as these words came out, Chu Hen's face showed surprise, and he cupped his hands and said, nice to meet you, sect leader Chen. Chen Yang was shocked. He was very familiar with this demon's son, Chu Hen. He had once cultivated with and absorbed his two lovers. Logically speaking, when Chu Hen saw him, even if he didn't shout and kill, he shouldn't be so polite. Perhaps it's because of the old Shenyu man, Chu Hen must know something. Chen Yang speculated secretly in his heart, but remained calm on the surface, raised his hand and cupped his fist, saying, nice to meet you. I just didn't expect that true disciple Chu would be able to be so calm when he saw me. Chu Hen laughed. Brother Chen is now the honorable sect leader of the Extinction Sword sect, so I naturally have to treat you with courtesy. Besides, women are just cauldrons, just cloves. They asked for trouble with Brother Chen, so no one can blame them for dying. Brother Chu is really generous. Chen Yang smiled, but didn't believe a word of it. Chu Hen's reaction made him certain that it was definitely because the old Shenyu man was here. Alright, Chu Hen, you can go to the Corpse Demon sect to watch the Mountain Worship War in a month. At that time, my Extinction Sword sect will also be officially rebuilt on that day. The old Shenyu man said indifferently. Okay, I will definitely call on the demonic sects of the Western Wasteland to go and watch the battle together. Chu Hen smiled. Very good. The old Shenyu man nodded. By the way, Senior Shenyu, I wonder where the Extinction Sword of the Extinction Sword sect is now. Chu Hen suddenly asked, a hint of greed flashing in his eyes. As expected, this Chu Hen has ulterior motives. Chen Yang's heart trembled, secretly vigilant. That Extinction Sword may appear on the day of the Mountain Worship War. What, do you want it? The old Shenyu man looked at Chu Hen with a smile that was not a smile. I just heard about the fame of the Extinction Sword, and wanted to see it. Chu Hen smiled. There will be a chance. The old Shenyu man said indifferently. I wonder if you can let me see it now. Chu Hen asked unwillingly. The old Shenyu man ignored him and continued walking through the ruins with Chen Yang. Chu Hen's expression changed again and again, and finally couldn't help but flash his figure and stood in front of the two. A cold light flashed in the old Shenyu man's eyes, and a terrifying pressure suddenly emanated from his body. Chen Yang immediately felt that there seemed to be sword intent in this pressure, but it was different. The old Shenyu man's strength had actually reached the late stage of Ningji. Senior, please calm down. Chu Hen was shocked and quickly took a few steps back. After the three exchanged a few more words, Chu Hen claimed to have something to do and left first. Senior, this Chu Hen will definitely not give up. Chen Yang said worriedly. The old Shenyu man nodded slightly. It doesn't matter, if he dares to play tricks, I will not spare him. Senior has such strength, naturally fearless. Chen Yang nodded and smiled. But he was even clearer about the old Shenyu man's strength in his heart and made an analysis. With such strength, even if I fight with all my strength, I may not be his opponent, but it will be easy to leave. The soul-splitting teleportation function of this weird blessed land takes 3 breaths. With Chen Yang's current strength, he can naturally withstand 3 breaths. Chapter 98. Today I, Chen Yang, come to pay my respects to the mountain. A month passed in the blink of an eye. The day of the mountain visit battle finally arrived. Above the corpse demon sect's mountain gate, dark clouds gathered, and violent winds raged. Sand and stones flew, obscuring the sky and sun, like a roaring dragon, shaking the mountains and rivers. The wind swept away the clouds, like the wrath of heaven and earth, wanting to destroy everything in its path. Chen Yang, clad in a black robe and carrying a long sword, slowly ascended the stone steps of the corpse demon sect. His steps were steady, each footfall seeming to carry the weight of 1,000 pounds, causing the ground to tremble slightly. He recalled how Si Lu had ascended the refining corpse Dao platform in a similar fashion. At this moment, the heavens seemed to reveal themselves, their light as sharp as a sword, cleaving through the void. A cold light flashed in Chen Yang's eyes, and sword intent swirled around him, as sharp as frost, faintly revealing an indomitable aura. This was a sign of the first layer of sword intent reaching completion. In front of the mountain gate, many Zan cultivators had already gathered to watch the battle. Even flying ships hovered in the sky. Sitting on one of them were Chu Hen of the Heavenly Demon Sect and the sect leader of the Death Shadow Sect. Sect leader Chen, be careful in today's battle, Chu Hen suddenly said with a smile. Chen Yang looked up and smiled faintly. Thank you for your concern, brother Chu. A meaningful look flashed in Chu Hen's eyes, but he didn't say much. The sect leader of the Death Shadow Sect snorted coldly, clearly not having a good impression of Chen Yang. In recent days, the old Shenyu had intentionally created momentum for Chen Yang with the broken sword, so not only did the demonic path Zan cultivators know that someone was going to challenge the corpse demon sect, but they also knew it was Chen Yang, the former true disciple of the corpse demon sect. Various rumors spread, and there were even several versions of why Chen Yang betrayed the corpse demon sect. This kid, only at the completion of the replenishing palace realm, dares to challenge Red Corpse. He really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. The sect leader of the Death Shadow Sect sneered, his tone full of disdain. The true disciples of the Death Shadow Sect echoed his sentiments, including Mo Bai, a clone of Lu Yuan. That's right, sect leader Red Corpse's living puppet Dao soldiers are at the condensing extremes realm. No matter how strong Chen Yang's blood demon Dao soldiers are, they are only at the replenishing palace realm. How can they possibly withstand it? I think he's just relying on the reputation of senior Shenyu to be so arrogant. Once sect leader Red Corpse makes a move, he probably won't even be able to withstand a single blow. Listening to the discussions, Chu Hen's lips curled slightly, and a playful look flashed in his eyes. He whispered to the sect leader of the Death Shadow Sect beside him, "Sect leader, how many moves do you think Chen Yang can withstand?" The sect leader of the Death Shadow Sect chuckled, "A few moves. I don't think he can even withstand the first wave of sect leader Red Corpse's attacks." The gap between completion of the replenishing palace realm and condensing extremes is not something that can be compensated for with a little bit of sword intent, it's like a chasm. Chu Hen smiled and didn't respond, his gaze fixed on Chen Yang, as if waiting for something. He knew some of the old Shenyu's background and understood that this mountain visit wasn't meant to send Chen Yang to his death. On the steps, Chen Yang ignored the crowd and walked straight towards the mountain gate of the corpse demon sect. His eyes locked onto Red Corpse, the sect leader of the corpse demon sect, on the high platform, and he said loudly, "Sect leader Red Corpse, today I, Chen Yang, have come to visit the mountain. I wonder if you dare to accept the challenge." Red Corpse sneered, his voice hoarse like iron rubbing against stone. "A mere completion of the replenishing palace realm dares to act presumptuously in my corpse demon sect. Chen Yang, do you really think you can contend with me with just your sword intent? Why wouldn't I dare, and we can even gamble." Chen Yang's lips curled up slightly, his tone carrying a hint of provocation. "Sect leader Red Corpse, if I win today, I wonder if you dare to give the quota for the Xuanming Holy Land to one of my Extinction Sword Sect's disciples." Hearing this, a sinister look flashed in Red Corpse's eyes. "A quota for the Holy Land? What makes you think so? What stake do you have?" "Stake? Of course I have one, that is the Extinction Sword Sect disciples within the Corpse Demon Sect. If I lose, those disciples will be yours," Chen Yang said indifferently. However, as soon as these words came out, Red Corpse was first surprised, then looked towards the sky, and seeing no reaction, he smiled and said, "All right, I agree." Currently, nearly 30% of the disciples within the Corpse Demon Sect have become Extinction Sword Sect disciples. After the Corpse Demon Sect's Supreme Elder agreed, today, regardless of whether Chen Yang wins or loses, those disciples will leave with Chen Yang. In this way, the Corpse Demon Sect will definitely be seriously injured. But he didn't expect Chen Yang to still want to gamble, which was simply a great thing for Red Corpse. After obtaining the consent of the Supreme Elder in the sky, he decisively agreed. Sect leader, please. Haha, Chen Yang, you are too arrogant. Before he finished speaking, Red Corpse suddenly waved his hand, and 3 living puppet Dao soldiers at the Condensing Extremes realm instantly rushed out from the ground, their hideous faces full of killing intent, and pounced towards Chen Yang. Blood Demon Dao soldiers, come forth. Chen Yang shouted lowly, and 3 Blood Demon Dao soldiers leapt out from behind him, engaging the living puppet Dao soldiers in battle. The onlookers shook their heads upon seeing this. Chen Yang is courting death. A mere replenishing palace Dao soldier dares to clash head-on with sect leader Red Corpse's Condensing Extremes realm living puppet Dao soldiers. Although the Blood Demon Dao soldiers are strong, the difference in realm is too great, I'm afraid they won't last long. However, to everyone's surprise, Chen Yang's Blood Demon Dao soldiers, strengthened by the sword threads condensed by sword intent, actually managed to block the living puppet Dao soldiers' attacks. The sword threads were like a net, dissolving the living puppet Dao soldiers' attacks one by one. How is this possible? Someone exclaimed. A look of surprise flashed in Chu Hen's eyes, and he said in a low voice, Chen Yang's sword intent has actually reached such a realm. The sect leader of the Death Shadow sect's expression changed slightly, and he snorted coldly, it's just a desperate struggle. Sect leader Red Corpse hasn't really made a move yet, Chen Yang will undoubtedly be defeated. Red Corpse's expression sank, obviously not expecting Chen Yang's Blood Demon Dao soldiers to be able to block his living puppet Dao soldiers. He snorted coldly, and his hands suddenly came together, and a terrifying Zon power fluctuation instantly erupted. Corpse King Kowtow. Following Red Corpse's low roar, a huge Corpse King phantom appeared out of thin air, slamming down towards Chen Yang. Wherever the Corpse King phantom passed, the air seemed to be torn apart, and the sword threads condensed by sword intent instantly collapsed. Chen Yang is going to lose. The disciples of the Corpse Demon Sect sighed. It hasn't even been long, he really came to embarrass himself, some disciples complained. However, just when everyone thought Chen Yang was bound to lose, Chen Yang suddenly raised his head, a flash of madness in his eyes, and black energy erupted from his body. He held the sword with both hands, and his sword intent erupted again, actually managing to block the Corpse King Phantom's attack. Completion of the replenishing palace realm can actually block sect leader Red Corpse's Zon technique. This Chen Yang is extraordinary. The onlookers exclaimed. Mad Demon. Seeing this, Chu Hen immediately understood what was going on. A flash of killing intent flashed in his eyes, but after glancing at the faint figure in the sky, he ultimately didn't make a move. The sect leader of the Death Shadow sect's expression also changed, and he fell into deep thought. In the battlefield, Red Corpse's expression was gloomy, obviously not taking Chen Yang's Mad Demon seriously. He said coldly, Chen Yang, you've been able to hold on until now, you've used up all your tricks, right? It ends here. As soon as he finished speaking, Red Corpse suddenly bit his fingertip, and a drop of essence blood dripped to the ground. Corpse King Sacrifice. A living puppet Dao soldier at the Condensing Extremes replenishing palace realm was instantly devoured, and then exploded violently. The terrifying power swept across the entire area, as if to destroy everything. Chen Yang is finished, Chu Hen declared. This is Red Corpse's proud Zon technique. The sect leader of the Death Shadow sect shook his head. However, just when everyone thought Chen Yang was sure to die, Chen Yang suddenly roared, Blood Fusion Technique. The 3 Blood Demon Dao soldiers instantly turned into blood mist, merging into Chen Yang's body. His aura suddenly soared, and his sword intent became even more fierce. Countless sword threads surrounded him, as thick as little fingers. Extinguish affection, extinguish divinity sword. Chen Yang slashed out a sword energy, the sword threads followed and wrapped around it, instantly annihilating the exploding shockwave, turning it into nothingness. Red Corpse's expression finally changed, he didn't expect Chen Yang to be so strong. Chapter 99 New Forces. Red Corpse Sect Leader, do you have any other tricks up your sleeve? If not, then you have lost. Chen Yang spoke coldly, his words sharp as a sword, piercing straight into the heart. Red Corpse gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with unwillingness, but he couldn't refute it. His most potent arcane techniques had been exhausted, yet they still couldn't do anything to Chen Yang. The self-destruction power of the Corpse King's sacrificial corpse was enough to obliterate a mid-stage core formation cultivator, but it was extinguished by Chen Yang with a single sword strike. This level of strength far exceeded his expectations. "All right, Red Corpse, you've lost." A voice, ancient and majestic, suddenly echoed in the sky. It was the Supreme Elder of the Corpse Demon sect. Red Corpse's expression changed. He looked up at the sky, unwillingly saying, "Supreme Elder, I haven't lost yet. I still have methods I haven't used. This battle is already decided, no need to say more." The Supreme Elder's voice sounded again, his tone carrying an unquestionable majesty. "Little friend Chen Yang is a supreme sword Dao prodigy. With him here, he will surely promote my Western desolate demonic path." Upon hearing this, Red Corpse's face turned ashen, but he dared not refute any further. He lowered his head to look at Chen Yang, his eyes filled with both fear and a hint of undisguised jealousy. Chen Yang, with his completion stage of palace-filling realm, forcefully defeated Red Corpse at the peak of the early stage of core formation realm. This kind of record was enough to shock the entire Western desolate demonic path. Those watching were all shocked, and whispered amongst themselves. This Chen Yang is simply a monster. A completion stage of palace-filling realm can actually defeat the peak of the early stage of core formation realm. This kind of talent is probably comparable to the former sect leader of the Extinction Sword sect. That's right, this kind of person will definitely become a legend in the demonic path in the future. With him presiding over the Extinction Sword sect, I'm afraid it won't be long before it can regain its former glory. At this moment, a young cultivator couldn't help but shout loudly, "Senior Chen Yang, I wonder if you are willing to accept disciples. I am willing to join your sect, only seeking to learn 1 or 2/10 of your swordsmanship." As soon as these words came out, it immediately caused a burst of laughter, but many people were secretly tempted. The strength of Chen Yang's swordsmanship was already obvious to all. If they could join his sect, their future would be limitless. Chen Yang stood in the center of the field, his expression indifferent, as if he didn't care about the surrounding discussions. He looked up at the sky, only to see 2 figures slowly emerge. One of them was the old Shenyu, and the other was naturally the Supreme Elder of the Corpse Demon sect. Chen Yang slightly cupped his fist towards the Supreme Elder. "Thank you, Supreme Elder, for your fair judgment." The Supreme Elder waved his hand, his gaze fixed deeply on Chen Yang. "Although you have defeated Red Corpse, don't be arrogant. This Xuanming Holy Land slot is extremely precious. According to the previous agreement, this old man will naturally give you a slot." "Thank you, Supreme Elder, for your accomplishment." Chen Yang responded, but felt a surge of killing intent, emanating from this Supreme Elder. He was sure that if it weren't for the old Shenyu, this Supreme Elder would definitely directly kill him. Then, the Supreme Elder's voice sounded again, his tone carrying a bit of majesty. "Everyone, stop discussing, today's battle is over, little friend Chen Yang also needs to rest, you all should leave quickly." Although the crowd was still not satisfied, they could only gradually disperse. However, they knew that what they had seen today would be forever etched in their hearts, and the name Chen Yang would resonate throughout the entire Western desolate demonic path like a thunderclap. No wonder Senior Shenyu values him so much, this child's future is limitless. Chu Hen murmured in a low voice, his killing intent even stronger, but in the end, he didn't make a move. With the old Shenyu here, he simply couldn't do anything to Chen Yang. Chen Yang stood with his sword put away, his gaze swept across the crowd, and he said lightly, "From today onwards, the Extinction Sword sect will be officially rebuilt. If there are any who are not convinced, feel free to come and fight." His voice was not loud, but it was like a sharp sword, piercing straight into the heart. The crowd was silent, no one dared to respond. The old Shenyu smiled slightly and nodded. Comma comma, comma comma, comma comma. With the end of the mountain visiting battle, the Extinction Sword sect disciples lurking in the Corpse Demon sect left the sect one after another and returned to the Extinction Sword sect. In just a few days, the scale of the Extinction Sword sect rapidly expanded, becoming a force to be reckoned with in the Western desolate demonic path. A few days later, news came from the Corpse Demon sect that the Holy Land Elder would personally visit the Western desolate demonic path in a year to select disciples to enter the Holy Land for cultivation. And Chen Yang had already rebuilt the sect on the old site of the Extinction Sword sect, appointing old Shenyu as the Supreme Elder, and himself as the sect leader. The Extinction Sword sect's criteria for accepting disciples were extremely unique in the demonic path, only accepting, not snatching, with priority given to those with sword Dao talent. All thanks to the influence brought by that mountain visiting battle. In just a few months, the Extinction Sword sect had gathered a group of disciples with extraordinary talents. Now, the power structure in the Western Desolate region has also undergone subtle changes as a result. On the Righteous Path side, Medicine Blossom Valley and Star Sword Gate still occupy the dominant position, but recently, the force that has gained a great reputation is a force called the Horizon Commerce Alliance. With deep pockets, and this force is extremely lucky, clearly in the territory of Star Sword Gate, but it can withstand the suppression and rise rapidly. On the Demonic Path side, the Corpse Demon Sect, the Death Shadow Sect, and the Extinction Sword Sect stand in a tripartite balance, forming a new equilibrium. Although the Corpse Demon Sect suffered a defeat in the mountain visiting battle, its foundation is still there, and it is still a behemoth that cannot be underestimated. The Death Shadow Sect, on the other hand, has a delicate relationship with the Extinction Sword Sect. After all, thousands of years ago, the Death Shadow Sect was also a sect that besieged the Extinction Sword Sect. As for the Extinction Sword Sect, although it is a newly promoted sect, it has become famous because of Chen Yang's existence. Weird Blessed Land. Lu Yuan was as usual, receiving information and intelligence from various clones. The jade slips of various types were piled up in front of him. He constantly replaced the jade slips for registration, his brows were slightly furrowed, as if he was thinking about something. Recently, the changes in the situation of the Western Desolate Demonic Path were too fast. The rebuilding of the Extinction Sword Sect, the development of the Horizon Commerce Alliance, and the open and secret struggles between the major sects, all made him feel a trace of unease. Chen Yang's side is progressing smoothly, but the Corpse Demon Sect and the Death Shadow Sect will never let it go. Moreover, the establishment of the Extinction Sword Sect consumed too many Zon crystals. Fortunately, there is the Horizon Commerce Alliance. Lu Yuan muttered to himself. Just at this moment, his consciousness suddenly moved, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Finally opened. Another clone, after months of trying, finally cracked the restriction on the storage bag of Mo Ming, the Peak Lord of Blood Demon Peak. Lu Yuan took the storage bag handed over by the clone and took out the items inside one by one. The first thing that came into view was a crystal-clear pill, exuding a faint fragrance. A hint of joy flashed in the eyes of Lu Yuan's clone. Core Formation Pill. I didn't expect Mo Ming to hide such a good thing. The Core Formation Pill is a precious pill for breaking through the Core Formation realm. Even in the Western Desolate Demonic Path, it is something that is priceless. Lu Yuan's clone carefully put away the pill, secretly calculating in his mind, with this pill, Chen Yang can also try to break through to Core Formation. Originally, he was planning to let Chen Yang ask the old Shenyu for it, now it saves trouble. Of course, Lu Yuan has always been cautious about the pills obtained in the demonic path, and will not use them himself. Immediately afterwards, he took out hundreds of thousands of Zon crystals from the storage bag. The Zon crystals were piled up into a small mountain, the light flashing, illuminating the entire Weird Blessed Land a little brighter. Lu Yuan's clone couldn't help but laugh out loud. This guy Mo Ming has saved a lot of family wealth. This is probably more than 300,000 Zon crystals, enough to support the Extinction Sword Sect's expenses for several years. Finally, his gaze fell on a few ancient jade slips. The surface of the jade slips was covered with complex patterns, faintly revealing a sense of vicissitudes. Lu Yuan's clone picked up one of them, and when his divine sense penetrated into it, he immediately felt a huge amount of information pouring into his mind. This is, Inheritance Jade Slip. A hint of shock flashed in the eyes of Lu Yuan's clone. What was recorded in the Jade Slip was not only Mo Ming's cultivation experience, but also several extremely rare secret techniques. Blood Shadow Escape Technique, can escape into the void, hide the figure, even the strong of the late stage of Core Formation realm are difficult to detect. Lu Yuan murmured, secretly rejoicing in his heart. If the arcane techniques of this Blood Demon Peak are used properly, it is enough for him to save his life or even counter-kill at a critical moment. After putting away the jade slip, Lu Yuan's clone took a deep breath, with a satisfied smile on his face. The harvest from killing Mo Ming far exceeded his expectations. Core Formation Pill, hundreds of thousands of Zon crystals, plus a few inheritance jade slips, enough to take his strength to the next level. Mo Ming, you have given me a great gift. Lu Yuan laughed softly, and then sorted out the items in the storage bag. Chapter 100 Breakthrough. Within the bizarre blessed land. The Ningji realm finally reached this step. Chen Yang muttered in his heart, a glint of determination flashing in his eyes. He sat down cross-legged, consuming the Ningji pill that Lu Yuan had given him. After a moment, the profound power around him surged like a tide, his aura sometimes violent, sometimes restrained, like a volcano about to erupt. His eyes were tightly closed, a sharp sword intent emanating from between his brows, his whole being like a unsheathed sword, its sharpness fully revealed. The Ningji realm was an important watershed on the path of profound cultivation. Entering this realm meant a qualitative change in profound power, transforming Zan into Ji, and his strength would undergo earth-shattering improvements. However, breaking through to Ningji was not easy, requiring him to pass 3 trials: the cultivation trial, the inner demon trial, and the transformation trial. Each trial was fraught with danger, and the slightest carelessness could lead to failure, or even death and dissipation. The first trial, the cultivation trial. Chen Yang did not pause at all, and directly began to attack the second trial. The cultivation trial was the accumulation and compression of profound power. The profound power within Chen Yang's body began to surge wildly, as if to burst him apart. His meridians throbbed faintly under the impact of the profound power, but he gritted his teeth and did not back down. Profound power transform into Ji, condense for me. Chen Yang roared lowly, operating the blood demon profound art, compressing the profound power bit by bit. Within his dantian, the profound power rotated like a vortex, gradually condensing into a mass of extreme profound qi. The formation of the extreme profound qi caused Chen Yang's aura to soar suddenly, and the entire secret room was enveloped by his pressure. The cultivation trial passed. The second trial, the inner demon trial, come on. Chen Yang shouted lowly, his mind sinking into his dantian. In an instant, his consciousness was pulled into an illusion. In the illusion, countless past memories surged like a tide. He saw his confusion when he first entered the demonic path, the danger when he confronted Ji Yuxuan, and the high-spiritedness when the destroying sword sect was rebuilt. These memories intertwined to form a powerful force of inner demons, trying to pull him into the abyss. Chen Yang, you are just an avatar, why bother selling your life for Lu Yuan? You could have established your own sect and become a hegemon. The voice of the inner demon echoed in his ears, full of temptation. Chen Yang sneered, his eyes flashing with a surge of sword intent. A mere inner demon, dare to disturb my Tao heart. I, Chen Yang, do not need to explain my actions to you. Before he finished speaking, he condensed a sword light in his hand, and suddenly slashed at the inner demon. The sword light was like a rainbow, instantly annihilating the inner demon. The illusion shattered, and Chen Yang's consciousness returned to his body. The inner demon trial passed. The final trial, the transformation trial. Chen Yang took a deep breath, a trace of solemnity flashing in his eyes. The transformation trial was the most dangerous trial in breaking through to the Ningji realm. The extreme profound qi was extremely unstable, and the slightest carelessness could cause it to collapse, leading to the failure of the breakthrough, or even backlash against oneself. Chen Yang did not dare to be careless, sinking his mind into his dantian, using sword intent as a guide to firmly lock the extreme profound qi. His sword intent was like silk threads, wrapping the extreme profound qi bit by bit, gradually stabilizing it. The transformation trial, complete. Chen Yang suddenly opened his eyes, his aura erupting like a volcano, officially stepping into the Ningji realm. His aura was like a rainbow, his sword intent soaring into the sky, and the entire bizarre blessed land was enveloped by his pressure. At the same time, Lu Yuan's consciousness slowly withdrew from Chen Yang's body, nodding secretly in his heart. Chen Yang's breakthrough was smooth. Experiencing a Ningji breakthrough once was very beneficial to him. Just at that moment, the Avatar sent the latest news. Chu Jing is preparing to return to the Corpse Demon sect. The development of the Heaven's Edge Merchant Alliance is going smoothly, but many of the people who have joined are rogue cultivators, and management is chaotic. Lu Yuan frowned slightly, seemingly dissatisfied with this information, and immediately descended his consciousness into Lu Yun's body. At the headquarters of the Heaven's Edge Merchant Alliance, in a towering hall, Lu Yun sat upright on the main seat, his eyes like torches, scanning the few confidants below. Most of these people were their true selves, not avatars, and were all capable subordinates carefully selected and repeatedly tested by Lu Yuan. Their loyalty and ability had already been verified in task after task. The reason why Lu Yun chose them was precisely so that in the future, in places outside the range of the bizarre blessed land, they could stand alone and control the situation for him. Alliance leader, according to your instructions, we have already collected a lot of orthodox cultivation methods from various places, including some rare classics. A confidant stepped forward and reported respectfully, next, how should we arrange these cultivation methods? Please instruct us, Alliance leader. Lu Yun nodded slightly, his fingers gently tapping the armrest of the chair, pondered for a moment, and said lightly. Take these cultivation methods as a benefit for joining us and distribute them to the profound cultivators below. However, the cultivation methods must be graded. Low-level cultivation methods can be freely claimed, to provide a foundation for those newly entered profound cultivators. As for high-level cultivation methods, they must be exchanged for contribution points. Those who do not have enough contribution points, even if they have high talent, must not be easily granted them. The confidant heard this, a trace of admiration flashing in his eyes, and quickly responded, "Alliance leader is wise. In this way, we can both attract more profound cultivators to join and encourage them to contribute to the Merchant Alliance, which can be described as killing two birds with one stone." Lu Yuan's avatar raised the corners of his mouth slightly, his tone carrying a bit of profound meaning. Not only that, after these cultivation methods are distributed, you must secretly observe those profound cultivators who are practicing high-level cultivation methods, especially those who are making rapid progress and are exceptionally talented. If there are any who are worth cultivating, pay more attention to them and give them appropriate resource support. Remember, the future of the Heaven's Edge Merchant Alliance does not only depend on as few people, but also needs a constant stream of fresh blood. Yes, Alliance leader. The few confidants responded in unison, a trace of excitement flashing in their eyes. Lu Yuan waved his hand, signaling them to retreat. After everyone left, he sat alone in the hall, his eyes deep, and muttered to himself, "Relying solely on the destroying sword sect and the Heaven's Edge Merchant Alliance is not enough to unify the Western Wastelands. Only by cultivating more talents can we gain a firm foothold in this chaotic world." This avatar possessed the talent of being blessed by luck, and even gradually influenced the divided soul, giving birth to the idea of unifying the Western Wastelands, but all of this could only be implemented with Lu Yuan's authorization. A few days later, the Heaven's Edge Merchant Alliance's cultivation method welfare policy was officially announced, immediately causing a sensation throughout the entire Western Wastelands. Countless rogue profound cultivators moved upon hearing the news, and came to seek refuge one after another. The free claiming of low-level cultivation methods gave hope to those rogue cultivators and disciples of small families, and the temptation of high-level cultivation methods made some outstanding profound cultivators eager to try. Have you heard? Joining the Heaven's Edge Merchant Alliance allows you to claim cultivation methods, and even high-level cultivation methods can be exchanged for contribution points. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I have been stuck in the supplementing palace realm for many years, and I am lacking a suitable cultivation method to break through. I must seize this opportunity. The Heaven's Edge Merchant Alliance is indeed generous, worthy of being a rising force in the Western Wastelands. With the addition of a large number of profound cultivators, the Heaven's Edge Merchant Alliance's power expanded rapidly, not only occupying an important position in areas such as market towns and trade routes, but even gradually increasing its influence in the cultivation world. Many forces that had originally taken a wait-and-see attitude towards the Heaven's Edge Merchant Alliance also began to re-evaluate its value. At the same time, Lu Yuan did not relax his internal control. Lu Yuan's avatars were scattered throughout the core positions, specializing in monitoring those profound cultivators who practiced high-level cultivation methods. Once someone was found to be harboring ulterior motives, or colluding with other forces, he would immediately take action. Alliance leader, recently, a profound cultivator who practices high-level cultivation methods has secretly contacted the Corpse Demon sect, and seems to intend to leak the secrets of the Merchant Alliance. A confidant hurried over and reported in a low voice. Lu Yuan's avatar heard this, a trace of coldness flashing in his eyes, and said lightly, "Handle it according to the rules, spare no mercy." Yes. The confidant took his orders and left, a trace of ruthlessness flashing in his eyes. The expansion of the Heaven's Edge Merchant Alliance not only greatly increased Lu Yuan's power, but also caused subtle changes in the situation in the Western Wastelands. The Corpse Demon sect, the Death Shadow sect, and other established demonic path sects also knew about this new orthodox force. The orthodox forces such as the Star Sword sect and the Medicine Flower Valley held complex emotions towards it, wanting to win it over, but also worried about its growing power. However, Lu Yuan was not complacent because of this. Perhaps relying on the undetectable luck, he could easily succeed in everything he did, and he could better grasp the scale and remain invincible. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.